Chapter 210. After eating a pot of bear meat, the few people who were hurrying on their way cut some withered grass and dried it next to the fire to dry the cold and water vapor. They spread it on the ground and covered it with a layer of animal skin before taking a good rest. Yan Ji and the others didn't have the same physical strength as Xiaofan. Up until now, they had been tense. It could be said that they were physically and mentally exhausted, so they needed to rest to relax. There were fewer insects in the smoked cave, so they wouldn't be bitten by sleeping. There were many small insects in the wild caves, which could cause a lot of trouble to the totem warriors who hadn't really awakened. But now, they didn't need to worry too much. Before they found this cave, they had encountered several caves. But before Yan Ji and the others went in, Xiaofan said that it was not suitable for people to live in. There were either a lot of insects or bats. Where there were bats, it was almost a small world. There were parasites in the cave and all kinds of insects raised by bat feces, so people couldn't live in it. Xiaofan was indeed a man who had followed the traveling team everywhere. He was so familiar with living in a cave. Yan Ji and the others thought. Not only Yan Ji, but also Yang Sui thought so. But in fact, they didn't know that Xiaofan's experience of living in a cave was not learned from the traveling team. He had lived in a cave since the first day he came to this world. Even after he left the cave and built a house, he still lived in a cave when he often went hunting with the hunting team. Who would have thought that the powerful Yanjiao tribe in the central part of the world had now lived a more primitive life than here? They couldn't even make pottery. It was not because they didn't have the technology, but because even if they had the technology, they couldn't make pottery because of various factors. So, except for fighting and hunting skills, there were too few things left. It was unknown what Yan Ji and the others would think when they saw the real Yanjiao tribe. When they left the Longboat tribe, Yan Ji and the others brought 3 pots to boil water. 2 of them were broken on the way, and now there was only 1 left. After eating some barbecued meat, Xiaofan went out to look for other prey. The meat was enough for Yan Ji and the others, but for him, it was nothing. Without higher quality food, Xiaofan could not adapt to the beast meat. Since the quality could not be changed, he could only satisfy the quantity. Therefore, before Yan Ji and the others went to sleep, they saw Xiaofan eating meat. After they woke up, they saw Xiaofan eating meat. A pile of bones had already been thrown to the side. Yan Ji, after traveling with Xiaofan for so long, Yang Sui had gotten used to such a situation. One Xiaofan and the other Cha-Cha were like 2 bottomless pits. Yang Sui really didn't know how such a tribe could feed its people. Could it be that they had more farmland and more livestock? Yang Sui had also asked about this, but Xiaofan did not answer. He only said that they ate meat most of the time, but he did not eat so much when he was in the tribe. Yang Sui would never have thought that the most common food of the Yanjiao tribe was actually the ferocious beasts, which they avoided at all costs. I have something bad to tell you. Yang Sui went out to drain water and came back, saying to the people around the fire. What? Will it snow for a long time? Xiaofan asked. Yes. Yang Sui squatted by the fire and said while drying his hands, the snow will last for about 10 days, but after it stops, the weather will not be clear. It will be cloudy for a day or 2, and then it will continue to snow. As for how long it will last, I don't know. It depends on which direction you go. If you go to the rain tribe, the snow will be less and less. If you go to the direction you said, the snow will still continue. Xiaofan thought for a moment and asked, if you go to the direction I said, will the river freeze? Not all of it will freeze. Then it will. Xiaofan thought for a moment and said, then let's stay here for a while. When the ice on the river melts, let's go. As for the period of time when it snows. Yan Ji, can you build a boat? It doesn't need to be too big, just enough for 10 people. No problem, but we need some materials. Yan Ji said. Tell me what you need. I will try my best to find it. Xiaoxian said. Before going to the longboat tribe, Xiaoxian wondered if he could learn some shipbuilding skills in the longboat tribe. After all, each era had its own characteristics. This world was completely different from the world he knew in his previous life. Therefore, Xiaoxian needed to learn a lot of new knowledge. However, when he arrived at the longboat tribe, he found that they, like many other tribes, were xenophobic. They were very strict about what they had mastered. Even wanderers like Yan Ji and the others, who came to the longboat tribe many generations ago, could not understand many things until now. Only the people of the longboat tribe could master the skills, and could not be taught to outsiders. However, Xiaoxian thought that when they returned to the tribe, they could discuss it with Yan Ji and the others. Even if they could not build a big boat like the longboat tribe, it should not be too bad. They just needed to experiment more. In the following time, Xiaoxian cut trees to find materials, and then built a boat with Yan Ji and the others. 20 days later, the snow stopped, and the temperature rose. Winter was not over yet, but the ice on the river had almost melted. There will be 7 or 8 days of sunny weather, and then the temperature will drop again, but the process will be a little longer. There will be a buffer period of 10 to 20 days, from rain to light snow to heavy snow. After that, the temperature will drop and the river will freeze. You should pay attention. Yang Sui said. Well, I know. Thank you. Xiaoxian went back to the cave, and carried out the 6-meter-long boat that they had built together these days. Yan Ji and the others wanted to help, but they did not expect that Xiaoxian could easily carry the boat alone. He walked faster than them. Are all totem warriors like this? Jiao Wu whispered, looking at the figure in front of him who carried the boat easily. Absolutely not. Yang Sui said quietly, and then looked at Yan Ji and the others. This may be the characteristic of the Yanjiao tribesmen. Hurry up and keep up. Yan Ji slapped Jiao Wu's head and said. However, although he tried to be serious, the corners of his mouth could not help but rise. The Yanjiao tribe seemed to be really strong. In their simple way of thinking, those with greater strength would naturally be stronger. When Yan Ji and the others came to the river, Xiaoxian had already put the boat in the river. As Yang Sui said, the ice on the river had melted by more than 90%, so there was no problem for the boat to sail. After getting on the boat, Yan Ji and the others consciously picked up the wooden oars and rowed. Along the river, they went a little further and passed a fork, and then they would arrive at the section of the river where they had followed the expedition team of the Pu tribe. When they arrived there, Yang Sui had to part with them. I will go back now, just in time for the sacrificial ceremony after the end of winter. Yang Sui looked at Xiaoxian and the others. Thank you for letting me follow you all the way here. You have also helped us a lot. Well, I will ask Cha-Cha to give you a ride. Xiaoxian made a gesture to the air. Huh, that's great. I have to cross several mountains in that direction. With Cha-Cha, it will be much easier. Yang Sui wrapped his animal skin tightly around his head, leaving only his eyes, nose, and mouth exposed. Cha-Cha descended, stretched out its claws to catch Yang Sui, and then rose. I hope to hear news about the Yanjiao tribe. Yang Sui shouted as he rose. When he returned to the Rain tribe and became a real shaman of the Rain tribe, Yang Sui would not be able to walk around like now. But, if he was unlucky and it didn't rain in the coming year, he could find an excuse to go to the Flaming Horns tribe to communicate with them. The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was a good idea. Yang Sui began to think about what excuse he would use to visit the tribe when it did not rain. Seeing Yang Sui leave, Xiaoxian took out the animal skin roll with a map on it. There were many places on it, some of which were detailed, some of which he had visited personally, and some of which were rough, according to what others had said. Yang Sui also told Xiaofan about the Rain tribe and the surrounding area. The map also marked the location of the Rain tribe. Yang Sui's tribe is quite far from here. Yan Ji looked at the map and said. The map in Xiaofan's hand was the most detailed one he had ever seen. As for Yang Sui, Yan Ji and the others treated him differently because he was a shaman. But after this period of contact, they felt that Yang Sui was a good person, and he told them a lot of things that happened in the central region and other places. They were reluctant to part with him now. We will meet again if fate wills it. At that time, he will be a real shaman, and you will be real totem warriors. Xiaofan said. Xiaofan's words made them look forward to it. Yan Ji thought of Mu Qian. When he left the Longboat tribe, because the Longboat tribe was closed in winter, he did not see Mu Qian again. But when he left, he asked He Air to pass a few words and a piece of animal skin with some words on it. He hoped that when they met again, it would be a better situation. Let's go and find Yan Shuo. Xiaofan looked at the sky. During this time, he also tried to check the sky in another way. When he used the special energy, he found that there seemed to be some air currents surging in the sky, which he had never seen before. Since he left the tribe, his own strength had also changed. Although he could not see it as accurately as Yang Sui, Xiaofan could also make some judgments based on those changes. Taking advantage of the sunny weather, Xiaofan and the others hurried on with the wooden oars. After a few days of sunny weather, it rained again. The weather was gloomy for a few days, and then it started to snow. It was rare to see people on both sides of the river in winter. As they sailed across the river, they would occasionally see one or two people along the way. They were people from some small tribes who lived around the river. From here, it could no longer be considered the central region. When the river began to freeze again and snow was falling, Xiaofan took Yan Ji and the others to the shore and set foot on the place where wanderers and slaves lived. Probably in winter, there were no boats passing by and no people on the shore. The slaves were called back to do other work. Only some wanderers came out to look for food. Several wanderers were trembling and planning to go back from the shore. They had no harvest these days, and there were very few travelers in winter. Naturally, they could not get much reward. As they were walking, one of them suddenly found a boat coming to the shore. "Hey, over there!" the man hurriedly said to his boss. The few of them turned their heads to look and were overjoyed. "Let's go and have a look," the boss of the group said. The so-called "go and have a look" meant that they would act according to the circumstances. If it was someone they could not afford to offend, they would treat him with a better attitude and work hard for reward. But if it was someone who was not a threat, they would take the risk of directly killing him and robbing him. The snow was getting heavier and heavier, blurring their vision. The few of them trembled and ran over with their hands clasped together. Hidden in their sleeves were thin stone knives and other tools and weapons. Acting according to the circumstances, they naturally had to prepare things first. There were only 5 people over there. 4 of them looked as if they were about to die from exhaustion. Their footsteps were heavy. There was even a woman who was carrying a few animal skin bags. Maybe there were a lot of good things. The people on the other side were even happier. "Big brother, take them directly." The man made a chopping gesture and said, "Leave the woman. Let's wait and see." The 5 people who had just come ashore were getting closer and closer. The boss was inclined to the idea of directly killing them and robbing them. But, just as he was about to say something with a harmless smile, the person in front of the 5 who had just come ashore turned around and looked at them. The boss, the harmless smile on his face froze, his body trembled even more, and he turned around and ran away. "Hey, big brother, why are you running?" One of them was still puzzled, but after seeing Xiaofan, he ran faster than his boss. Seeing the people who came over and ran away as if they were avoiding a ferocious beast, Jiao Wu was puzzled. Why are they running away? Yanji guessed something, but he did not say anything. As a person who had lived in the wanderer area since childhood, he could naturally see that those people were also wanderers, but they were the kind who had bad intentions. Let's go. Xiao Xian took Yan Ji and the others and walked towards Yan Shua's house. Because of Xiao Xian's deterrence at that time, in the past 6 months, no one had a direct conflict with Yan Shua. The slave owner did not do anything, as if nothing had happened. This also made Yan Shua's life much better. Coupled with the sudden appearance of the totem tattoo before winter, Yan Shua found that his strength had increased again, and sometimes he could hunt some satisfactory prey in the mountains. At this moment, Yan Shua was in the house, and the family was eating barbecue around the fire. There was fish soup in the pot, which was caught on a few days when the weather was good. Looking at his wife and children, who had become rosier, Yan Shua thought that it would be better if he could really return to the Yanjiao tribe. As he was thinking, Yan Shua heard someone knocking on the door. And this kind of knocking rhythm and strength meant that it was not someone from the wanderer area. Yan Shua signaled his wife and children to hide in the house. Although no one had caused him big trouble since Xiao Xian left, but for safety's sake, he was still very cautious. "Who is it?" Yan Shua shouted and walked to the door with a knife. "It's me, Xiao Xian." Hearing the voice outside the door, Yan Shua did not care about anything else. He threw his precious knife behind him and hurriedly moved the thick wooden board away. Seeing Xiao Xian, Yan Shua was very excited. "Come in quickly, it's cold outside." Yan Shua asked his wife to take out the frozen fish and other things, and then he was about to say something to Xiao Xian, when he saw the 4 people who followed Xiao Xian into the house. "They are?" Yan Shua looked at the 4 people. He felt that although it was the first time he saw these 4 people, there was an inexplicable sense of familiarity. He had already guessed the possible answer. "They are all people like you." Xiao Xian briefly introduced Yan Ji and the other 3 people. As for the people of Yan Shua's family, he had already told them on the way. Although Yan Shua's house had been expanded, it was still a little crowded with 5 more people, but it was also much warmer. After drinking some hot soup, they gathered around the fire, chatting and becoming familiar with each other. Yan Ji and the others used to be on guard against people, including the descendants of the Yanjiao tribe, but they believed in Xiao Xian, so they also believed in Yan Shua. These were the people who would go back to the tribe with them. "When the winter is over, we will leave." Xiao Xian told them his plan. With them, Xiao Xian planned to go to the drumming tribe. In the drumming tribe, the other people's lives would be protected. If they went to other places, they would encounter a lot of trouble. Although the people of the drumming tribe look fierce, they are good people. Moreover, we will need their help. Xiao Xian, you can arrange it. We will listen to you. Yan Shua said. Yes, you can decide. Yan Ji also said. Are there many crocodiles in the drumming tribe? Jiao Wu asked tentatively. Yes. Crocodiles are very dangerous. In the longboat tribe, Yan Ji and the others had seen the crocodiles brought back by the fleet. They had been hunted during the voyage. They had only seen it from a distance, and only saw the crocodile easily bite a wooden stick as thick as an arm into pieces. But in the drumming tribe, as long as you behave and do as I say, those crocodiles are actually very good helpers. Xiao Xian told them about the situation of the drumming tribe, as well as what he had experienced in the drumming tribe. However, before going to the drumming tribe, I plan to go to the Pu tribe to find someone. The Pu tribe is not far from the drumming tribe. If we go to the drumming tribe, we will pass by the Pu tribe. Xiao Xian said. At that time, when they separated from the traveling team, Xiao Xian told you that if they could catch up, they would meet somewhere. However, when the people of the Pu tribe arrived, they stayed for 2 days, but they still did not see Xiao Xian. In order to go back, the people of the Pu tribe could not wait for Xiao Xian. This was not something that you could decide alone, so they left when the time came. However, Yu was not worried. He knew that Xiaoxian's real strength was stronger than it looked. Besides, there was an eagle. When Xiaoxian left, he also told him that if he could not catch up, he could let the traveling team of the Pu tribe go first, and he would visit the Pu tribe later. After being separated from the traveling team of the Pu tribe for a long time, Xiaoxian planned to visit Yu and several people who had helped him in the traveling team before going back. By the way, he could get some frog poison from the Pu tribe, which might be useful on the way back. Although the winter here was as long as that on the other side of the river, the weather here was not so bad. When the moon came out, the weather was actually warmer. Chapter 211. As the winter officially ended, some rafts and boats gradually began to appear on the river, but most of them were wanderers and slaves who lived here. The traveling team had not yet come out. Xiaoxian did not see the slave owner this time. Yan Shuo said that the slave owner named Shi Shu had left before winter. No one knew where he went or when he would come back. However, the slave owner had left several high-level slaves to be in charge here. With them here, the slaves did not dare to be lazy at all. These days, the slaves could be seen everywhere. Xiaoxian, Yan Ji, and the others repaired the boat that was docked on the shore. The boat was left here. There were no slaves guarding it, but it had not been stolen. When it snowed, no one was willing to go out. And when it stopped snowing, those who wanted to go out would give up when they saw Xiaoxian. "We'll leave tomorrow." After repairing the boat, Xiaoxian said. "Okay, I'm ready." Yan Shuo said excitedly. Yan Shuo and his family would leave with Xiaoxian, and their house would be left to their friends here. Since Xiaoxian came here last year and shocked a group of people, plus his improved strength, Yan Shuo had gathered a group of wanderers and formed a small group. Among these people, there were a few who were close to Yan Shuo, but these people could not leave with him. Therefore, Yan Shuo left his house to his brother who had gone through hardships with him, and then told them under Xiaoxian's instructions that the Yanjiao tribe would move to the central region. At that time, they could go together and live around the Yanjiao tribe. The people who were originally depressed because of Yan Shuo's departure were very happy after hearing Yan Shuo's words. This was very good news for them. With hope, they had more motivation to live. Wasn't it just a few more years? Maybe after 1 or 2 years, they would receive the news. After taking care of everything, Xiaoxian handed the prey thrown down by Cha-Cha to Yan Shuo. "Have a good rest tonight and leave tomorrow." At night, because of the end of winter, some nocturnal animals came out to be active, so the wanderers did not dare to go out. They all stayed at home. "Xiaoxian, what are you looking at?" Jiao Wu asked while eating a piece of barbecue. Xiaoxian withdrew his gaze from the window, closed the window and said, "If I'm not wrong, tonight should be the tribe's annual sacrifice time." Hearing Xiaoxian's words, no matter who was eating meat or drinking soup, they all stopped what they were doing and looked at Xiaoxian. "Sacrifice, sacrifice, what is it like?" Yan Ji restrained his excitement and asked. "On this day, everyone in the tribe will go to the fire pit to participate in the sacrificial ceremony. The totem warriors will wear clothes and accessories made from the best prey they have hunted. They will also draw the tribe's totem patterns on their faces." Xiaoxian told them about the annual sacrifice. Everyone around the bonfire listened attentively. Their eyes reflected the light from the bonfire, shining brightly. Even little Naughty, who was being held by Yan Shuo, listened attentively. It was unknown how much he understood. While talking, Xiaoxian suddenly felt the totem tattoo change in his mind. 3 flames of the fire pit, the first flame has started. Xiaoxian pointed to his face and rolled up the sleeves of his animal skin coat, revealing the totem tattoo. Not only Xiaoxian, but also the faces of the other 5 people here, except for Yan Shuo's wife and children, all had totem tattoo on their faces. They were not as clear as Xiaofan's, but they did have totem tattoo. This was something that had never happened before. Every year on this day, the children in the tribe who meet the requirements will awaken their totem. When we go back, little Yan Yan will also have to experience it. Xiaofan said. Yan Yan was Yan Shuo's daughter, but she was not as beautiful as the children in the tribe. But it didn't matter. When they went back, they would gradually recover. He said to have a good rest tonight, but no one could sleep early. Yan Shuo and Yan Ji even thought about Xiaofan's words for the whole night. They didn't know if it was because they were too excited, but they couldn't fall asleep even after closing their eyes for a long time. When they woke up the next day, they were still very energetic. Yan Shuo was about to leave. His friends in the Wanderer area came to see him off. Yan Shuo carried the child onto the boat and looked back at the people standing on the shore. Let's go back. Everyone, wait for the good news. Taking the wooden oar from Yan Ji, Yan Shuo rowed while looking at the place where he had lived for many years. These years, there were more and more houses in the territory of the slave owners, and they were getting bigger and bigger. This year, many wanderers went there, dreaming that one day, they could be promoted from the lowest slave to an important position with a title. The wanderer area was still the same. Some people left, and some people came in. Some houses collapsed, and some new ones were built. And in the river next to the wanderer area and the slave territory, there were countless corpses of wanderers and slaves. Some died of illness, and some were killed. Yan Ji suddenly remembered that when he first came to this place, the wanderer who lived next door often sat in a daze outside the door and said something. That year, the wanderer took a bone knife made by himself, pointed to the river and said to Yan Shuo, "Every day, people died, and then were thrown into the river. They were eaten by fish, and then wanderers caught the fish and ate them. Some people were even more unfortunate. He wanted to be thrown into the river, but unfortunately, he was eaten. His bones were made into bone knives and taken to various places to hunt prey." Yan Shuo couldn't remember what the wanderer looked like. He only remembered that the wanderer was seriously injured when he went hunting in the mountains. After he came back, he tied a stone to himself and jumped into the river. The difficulty of survival and the hardships of life were only understood by those who lived in it. Yan Shuo looked back at those who were still standing on the shore. They were still looking at the boat. They were envious of Yan Shuo, and at the same time, they were looking forward to the day when they heard the news about the Yanjiao tribe. Perhaps when that day came, it would be their new life. Forcefully rowing the wooden oar, Yan Shuo looked at those who were standing on the shore and shouted, "Live! Live!" Their voices came from the shore. Jiao Wu wanted to shout as well, but Yan Ji stared at him, and he held back the shout that was about to come out of his mouth. On the Green River, the boat carrying 9 people moved forward with the sound of rowing. On the boat, there were some shields made of wood. If someone attacked them from both sides of the river, they could resist for a while. Yan Shuo's wife and child were protected in the middle. In the sky, Cha-Cha stared at the movement below. If he found anything unusual, he would inform Xiaofan. Xiaofan still had memories of this waterway. He also remembered that last time when he came here, those experienced travelers had told him about their experiences, such as which section of the river was more urgent and dangerous, and which section of the river had small tribes. Xiaofan had also told Yan Ji and the others about these, so that they could be mentally prepared and not be too flustered when the time came. It was the first time that they left the wanderer area where they grew up. The 2 children curiously looked at the scenery on both sides, but the adults were not so relaxed. Because of Xiaofan's warning, they had to be vigilant. On the 3rd day after leaving the river fork, Xiaofan saw the symbol of the Pu tribe. "We've arrived at the Pu tribe," Xiaofan said, pointing to the totem carved on a protruding rock on the mountain beside the river. There were also totem warriors patrolling the border area of the Pu tribe. They did not remember Xiaoxian, but when Xiaoxian mentioned something about last year, the patrolling warriors recalled and seemed to have some impression. Seeing that Xiaoxian and the others did not seem to be a threat, a patrolling warrior said, "Come with me, I will take you to see Fan Ning." Winter was over, the temperature rose, and the traveling team began to prepare for the first trip of the year. Among the several groups of traveling teams, Fan Ning was letting someone inform his team of the plans for this year's trip. Hearing someone calling him from behind, he turned around and saw Xiaoxian. Fan Ning remembered Xiaoxian, but he did not have a good face and looked indifferent. Xiaoxian did not care about Fan Ning's attitude. Anyway, Fan Ning had always been like this. After chatting with a few familiar faces, Xiaoxian went to find Zhao under the guidance of several people of the Pu tribe. It was the first time for Yan Ji and the others to enter a tribe, and it was not their own tribe. They were surrounded by totem warriors, which made them very nervous. When the people of the Pu tribe saw Yan Ji and the others, some showed contempt in their eyes, while some ignored them. They knew that Yan Ji and the others did not have many good things, so they could not make a deal with them. Naturally, they did not have a good attitude. However, those who knew Xiaoxian knew that this guy had a lot of good things, and he came back from the central region. When there were few people around, Jiao Wu could not help but whisper in his brother's ear, "Their eyes are so big." He was going to say something, but Yan Ji stared at him and shut his mouth. As soon as it warmed up, some frogs began to move in the Pu tribe. Because Xiaoxian had warned them before they came, Yan Ji and the others were careful not to touch those frogs, although many of them looked very fat and delicious. "Are we going to start trading in 2 days?" Xiaoxian looked around the houses and asked the people next to him. Many people around had already begun to put things out. This was the situation when the people of the Pu tribe were going to start trading. "Yes, by the way, Xiaoxian, today the people of the Luo tribe will come to trade. You can see what you can get," the man said. When he saw Zhao's hut, Xiaoxian thanked the man and gave him a piece of jerky. "Thank you." As soon as he smelled the jerky, the man was stunned. He did not expect that he could receive something just by leading the way. He grinned and looked around. When no one noticed, he quickly stuffed the jerky in his hand into the animal skin bag. He did not want others to know that he could get something by leading the way. What if someone robbed him of this job next time? This time, Zhao did not intend to leave with the traveling team. When Xiaoxian arrived, Zhao was still sleeping in the hut. Xiaoxian's arrival made Zhao very happy. Knowing that Xiaoxian wanted to trade for frog poison, Zhao made several kinds of frog poison and poisonous stingers on the spot under the curious gaze of Yan Ji and the others. He also dug out his grandfather's private collection from the ground. The old man's things are from last year. It has been too long, so the efficacy of the medicine will decrease. It is a waste to keep them. You can have them, Zhao said without any guilt. He was not worried that the old man would fly into a rage if he knew. "Thank you." At this time, there was a commotion not far away. It should be the people of the Luo tribe. You can trade for some fishing nets from them. Their fishing nets are very good. I have not seen what they use to make the nets, Zhao suggested. "Okay, I will go and have a look." After Xiaoxian and the others left, Zhao yawned and planned to continue sleeping. Who was here? "Hey! Where is my frog poison? I was going to trade for something with the people of the Luo tribe." The old man came back. "Grandpa, do you know the Yanjiao tribe?" Zhao asked. "I don't know. It sounds familiar. Where is my frog poison?" Xiaoxian is from the Yanjiao tribe. "Well, where is my frog poison?" Last year, when I was with the traveling team, Xiaoxian fought with a person from the Thousand Masks tribe. He did not lose. "Oh, I seem to have heard you mention it. Where is my frog poison? Once again, the grandfather and grandson began their daily conversation, which was like a chicken talking to a duck. Xiaoxian still had some impressions of the Luo tribe. The nets of the Luo tribe were indeed very special. The materials they used were very fine, much finer than ordinary grass and vines. It was also strong enough. It should be made after processing some kind of plant. Xiaoxian exchanged for a fishing net and a few fish skin clothes. Fish skin clothes were very common in the Luo tribe. It was different from the animal skin clothes of other tribes. Their tribe had 3 rivers, 2 of which could be used to catch fish. They used the most primitive tools and the most common materials to make clothes to shelter the body from the wind and rain. Whether it was the Luo tribe or the Pu tribe, or other tribes, they had experienced countless years of wind and rain. Every tribe had their own unique development history, and through survival and practice, they found more skills. Even if they did not come into contact with the more advanced culture of the central region, they could still step into the threshold of civilization. It just took a longer time. Civilization and skills were forced out by life. Compared to the prices of the central region, the trade here was very affordable. No wonder the people of the Pu tribe always liked to travel. Yan Ji and the others followed Xiaoxian and gained a lot of knowledge. After spending a night in the Pu tribe, early the next morning, Xiaoxian took Yan Ji and the others to the drumming tribe by boat. The closer they got to the drumming tribe, the more nervous Yan Ji and the others were. Although Xiaoxian had told them that the crocodiles of the drumming tribe were special, they still could not help but be nervous. The cruel scene in their memory kept replaying. The drumming tribe is in front of us. Xiaoxian looked at the river in front of them and said. Yan Ji and the others were even more nervous, glancing at the water from time to time. Hua, a figure jumped out of the water, and when he landed, he floated on the river. Soon, Yan Ji and the others saw a ferocious head covered with hard texture under the man's feet, and a pair of extremely indifferent eyes. Around the boat, there were many heads, pairs of yellow-brown eyes with vertical pupils, and huge jaws. The boat was surrounded in the middle. Except for Xiaoxian, the others turned pale. The other party was a patrolling warrior of the drumming tribe. Compared with the people of the Pu tribe, the warriors of the drumming tribe had a much deeper impression of Xiaoxian. Oh, it's you. The other party's tone sounded warm and familiar, but the expression on his face made Yan Ji and the others nervous. They always felt that he was ferocious. After hearing the purpose of Xiaoxian's visit, the other party enthusiastically led Xiaoxian into the tribe. But when he smiled, the expression on his face looked more ferocious. While walking, Xiaoxian heard a cry that others could not hear. It was that little guy. When he saw him last year, he was just a fragile crocodile. In front of them was a figure with a pair of dark brown eyes. Although the figure was much bigger, Xiaoxian could recognize him at a glance. Little Yanian, come here. I will show you the crocodile. Chapter 212. It had been more than half a year since they last saw this crocodile. Now, this crocodile was more than 2 meters long, growing faster than ordinary crocodiles. According to the people of the drumming tribe, these crocodiles would grow faster and faster, especially during the rainy season. Every time they left and came back, they would experience a crazy growth process. Little guy, long time no see. Xiaoxian looked at the crocodile and said. He also reached out and touched the hard skin on the crocodile's head. Seeing that Xiaoxian was so familiar with the little crocodile, the warrior who led them into the tribe smiled even wider, and his attitude became more enthusiastic. However, with their big mouths, Jiao Wu felt a chill run down his spine. These people's eyes were really like crocodiles. Jiao Wu and the others thought. If they saw the fighting state of the drumming tribe, this feeling would be even stronger. After a winter, although the temperature was warmer, it was not to the extent that they liked. However, in the drumming tribe, crocodiles could be seen everywhere. Several warriors of the patrol team protected Yan Ji and the others and led them into the tribe. If no one led them, the crocodiles would attack strangers and eat them as food. Some crocodiles floated up from the pool, coldly looking at the people passing by, and then sank back into the pool. Jiao Wu and the others were tense, but the two children's mentality was much better. They curiously stared at the large and small crocodiles around. Since they came to the drumming tribe, they naturally had to visit the chief and the shaman of the drumming tribe. Moreover, Xiao Xian had something to discuss with them. Last time when Xiao Xian came, the two had shown a friendly attitude, hoping that the two tribes could cooperate. This time, Xiao Xian came to talk about cooperation. The shaman and the chief of the drumming tribe had received the report from the patrol team and were waiting outside the house. Standing outside the house to greet him instead of sitting inside showed the attitude of the shaman and the chief, showing that they valued Xiao Xian. Long time no see, Xiao Xian. The shaman of the drumming tribe looked at Xiao Xian and said. Not too long, only half a year. Xiao Xian walked over and took out a piece of jade as a gift. Fan Mu took over the jade and felt a gentle warmth in his hand, which eased his irritable mood a lot. It was not that they had never seen jade before, but because the tribe was located in a remote area, far away from the central region, and unlike the Pu tribe, they did not like to travel far. In addition, the Pu tribe rarely brought jade back, so within the tribe, there were not many people who had seen jade. Only a few people with high status had seen it. The shaman of the drumming tribe looked at Xiao Xian with a more relaxed expression, not only because it was a gift from Xiao Xian, but also because he knew that before Xiao Xian left, he only had some water moonstones on him. For someone who could travel with the Pu tribe, wander around the central region, and bring his tribesmen back safely, his strength should not be underestimated. As a shaman, what he saw was not only the immediate benefits, but also something that was more beneficial to the development of the tribe in the long run. Although the shaman didn't quite understand why the people Xiao Xian brought here looked like ordinary people who hadn't awakened, he knew it involved the secret of the Flaming Horns tribe, so he didn't ask in detail. He just asked people to take Yan Ji and the others to the next room to rest, and then he and Fan Mu took Xiao Xian into the room to talk in detail. Move the tribe? After hearing Xiao Xian's words, the shaman and the chief of the drumming tribe were very surprised. Generally speaking, unless there was a great change, the tribe would not move at will. The bigger the tribe, the more difficult it was to move. Yes. To be honest, our shaman and the chief have long wanted to move the tribe to the central region, because the tribe used to be in the central region, but later left because of some things. When I go back this time, I will tell the shaman about the situation in the central region, and he will probably make the decision together with the chief. Xiao Xian explained, hiding something. If we move the tribe, we may land in the drumming tribe. At that time, I hope the drumming tribe can help us. I promise that we will not be a threat to the drumming tribe, nor will we invade and occupy the territory of the drumming tribe. Xiao Xian said. Whether they would invade and occupy, these were not things that they believed in Xiao Xian. After all, Xiao Xian was not the shaman, nor the chief of the Yanjiao tribe. As the chief of the tribe, Fan Mu and the shaman had to consider more. Xiao Xian was not in a hurry. He would stay in the drumming tribe for half a year until the end of the rainy season, which was also agreed by the shaman and Fan Mu. They would also make a decision in this half a year. After talking for a long time in the shaman's room, Xiao Xian came out and went to Fu Shi's house with Yan Ji and the others. Although they had not seen Xiao Xian for half a year, Fu Shi's family was still very enthusiastic and took out meat to entertain them. As a result, Yan Ji and the others saw the heroic and bloodthirsty people of the drumming tribe at the dinner table. Hearing Xiao Xian say that they would live in the tribe for half a year, and there was no place to live here temporarily, Fu Shi rolled up his sleeves and said, "I will help you build a house." Just build the one next to it. When Chenjia has a family and children, he can live there too. The houses of the drumming tribe were partly built on water. Xiaoxian was not familiar with this kind of building technique, so he really needed Fu Shi's help. But fortunately, there were many people, and Xiaoxian was strong enough to carry wood to build a house. After a day, a house about the same size as Fu Shi's house was built. There were 3 rooms in the house. One was for Yan Shuo's family, one was for Yan Zhua and his wife, and the remaining one was for Xiaoxian and Yan Ji and his brother. They would live here temporarily, so it would not be too complicated. Besides, they basically worked outside during the day, so they would only live here at night to give their children a place to stay. Let's make do with it for now. Xiaoxian looked at the house and said. That. Jiao Wu pointed to the crocodiles swimming in the pool under the house and stammered. Wouldn't he have nightmares living here? It's okay. As long as you don't provoke them, they won't attack you. Xiaoxian said. Bang! Cha-Cha threw down a deer he caught from the forest and left. Under the guidance of Fu Shi, Yan Zhua and the others went to the river to deal with the deer, and then dragged it back to the house. Before roasting it, Xiaoxian asked Yan Zhua to cut a piece of meat from the deer, walked to the window, and threw it to the small crocodile in the pool. Although it seemed that crocodiles usually crawled and swam slowly, they were quite fast when hunting. The meat that Xiaoxian threw out was accurately caught in the crocodile's mouth. They would live in this house until the rainy season. Of course, living in the drumming tribe, Xiaoxian also paid the accommodation fee. Sometimes he would send some game to Fu Shi and the others. After all, this place belonged to Fu Shi's family, and Fu Shi's family usually helped them a lot. Xiaoxian intended to leave before the rainy season, but to leave, they had to build a boat, which needed to be stronger and more durable than the previous one. In terms of wood, Xiaoxian would look for wood in the forest near the drumming tribe every day. If he was satisfied, he would carry it back. If he couldn't find it, he would go to a farther place to look. When the people of the drumming tribe saw that Yan Ji and the others wanted to build a boat, they also came to help. Of course, many of them were sent by the shaman to learn. They also wanted to learn some shipbuilding techniques. Although they usually used crocodiles as boats, sometimes they also needed such things. The boat looked much better than the rafts of the Pu tribe. The most important thing was that when they heard that the boat was commonly used in the central region, they became excited. Sometimes when Xiaoxian went out, many warriors of the drumming tribe would follow him. When Xiaoxian came back, they would also carry various kinds of wood. This shipbuilding was related to whether they could return to the tribe smoothly. Xiaoxian had already discussed the requirements of the boat and the hull design with Yan Ji and the others. There were no trees that were big and strong enough to make a canoe, so they could only use wood to make a boat. Yan Ji and the others also put all their energy into building the boat. It could be said that all their hopes were on this boat, so they couldn't be careless. They found a lot of things, such as gum, glue, wooden nails, stone nails, fish skin, bamboo, rattan grass and so on. They tried them one by one, and then used them on the boat. Without metal, it was naturally more difficult, so they needed to use more things to make up for it. Of course, they also needed a sail. On the way, Xiaoxian went to the Luo tribe several times. The gum and fish skin used by the Luo tribe were the things that Xiaoxian needed, as well as the materials to weave the net. Xiaoxian asked them to weave a more compact net, on which a layer of thin and strong fish skin, which was used by the Luo tribe to make summer clothes, was stuck. After paying them, Xiaoxian took the sail back. He also brought back some linen from the central region, and the fish skin sail was a spare. During the time they lived in the drumming tribe, Jiao Wu was no longer afraid of the crocodiles. Although he still avoided them, he was not as afraid as he was at the beginning. Moreover, Xiaofan also told them that on the way back to the tribe, they would encounter more things that were more terrible than the crocodiles. If they didn't even dare to look directly at the crocodiles, how could they sail? When the boat was built, the rainy season was coming. As a means of support for their return, Yanji and the others built a wooden shed to protect the boat. After a long time of thinking and discussion, the shaman and the chief of the drumming tribe made a decision. They were willing to help the Yanjiao tribe when they arrived, and allowed the people of the Yanjiao tribe to enter their tribe. Xiaofan swore by the totem that he would not rob the drumming tribe of their water moon stones and other things, nor would he maliciously hurt the people of the drumming tribe when they arrived. The two sides discussed for a whole day in the shaman's hut. Although most of the people of the drumming tribe were not so complicated and did not think too much, as the leaders of the tribe, the shaman and the chief were much more shrewd and thoughtful. After finalizing the cooperation between the two sides, the shaman of the drumming tribe specially wrote a letter on an animal skin roll to the shaman of the Yanjiao tribe. At the end of the animal skin roll, there was a totem of the drumming tribe. This was the communication between the shaman and the shaman. This was the first high-level communication between two tribes that had never formally met. The shaman wrote something, and the chief also wrote something. Xiaofan would bring it back. He believed that the shaman and the chief would be very happy to see this. The rainy season is coming. Are you ready? The shaman of the drumming tribe stood by the window, looking at the sky outside and asked. Behind the shaman, Xiaofan carefully put away the animal skin roll and replied, almost. When the rainy season comes, we will prepare some food and bring it back. Xiaofan had said that he was not sure when the Yanjiao tribe would move, but it would be as soon as possible. Compared with other high-level members of the drumming tribe, the shaman believed in Xiaofan and the Yanjiao tribe more. When he first felt the power of the Yanjiao tribe's shaman from the stone card with the totem of the Yanjiao tribe, he believed it. It was the shaman's intuition and feeling. I look forward to your early arrival. Me too. Xiaofan said. Coming out of the shaman's house, Xiaofan looked at the sky. It was going to rain soon. When the rain came, the rainy season would come. The biggest change in the rainy season of the drumming tribe was the crocodiles. In this boundless river, many river animals would be active in this rainy season, and so would the crocodiles of the drumming tribe. When the rain came, it also indicated that this year's rainy season had begun. Crocodiles, big and small, went to the river one after another. The crocodiles that usually stayed in the pond in front of Fu Shi's house also left. When these crocodiles came out of the valleys, tributaries, quagmires, and ponds, they moved their big claws and dragged their huge bodies slowly on the ground. It was a spectacular scene. The little ones who didn't leave with the team last year could also leave this year after a year of growth. Because of the rain, Xiaofan and the others didn't go out today. Looking at the crocodiles, big and small, passing by the house, Xiaowu said, I don't usually see so many crocodiles. Because usually many of them don't come out, so you don't see them. Yanji said. Yan and his brother stood in front of the window, looking away from the crocodiles outside, and asked Xiaofan, Brother Xian, does our Yanjiao tribe also have such crocodiles? No. Then what do we have? Yan was very curious. In addition to people, there are only a few strange creatures. Are they like Cha-Cha? They look different. Xiaofan took a charcoal pencil and drew some pictures on the board. This is Caesar, a wolf. This is Ho, a cave lion. And Sia, a deer dolphin, looks a bit like a wild boar, but has no hair. You will know when the time comes, and Xiaofan also told Yanji and the others about the tribe's situation, so that they could be mentally prepared. However, for Yanji and the others, it didn't matter whether the tribe could make pottery, jade, silk clothes, big boats, etc. They just wanted to go back to the tribe, which was their biggest wish. The rainy season passed day by day, and the crocodiles of the drumming tribe gradually left. When the rainy season was over, the only crocodiles that could be seen in the drumming tribe were those who were not born in the breeding season. They couldn't leave, and the people in the tribe would take care of them. "It's time for us to go." Xiaofan asked everyone to pack up their things, move the boat out, and carry it to the river. The shaman and chief of the drumming tribe, and some other senior members of the drumming tribe also came to the river to see them off. After saying goodbye to the people of the drumming tribe, they boarded the boat. Xiaofan came here from the Yanjiao tribe, but there were still many places that Xiaofan hadn't been to. When all the tribes in Yanjiao moved here and settled down, he would go to those places again. He would go to the Thousand Masks tribe, the Hui tribe, and the Rain tribe. Goodbye. Xiaofan waved to the people on the shore. They opened the sail and returned. Chapter 213. After the end of the rainy season, many creatures in the river had left. The most common ones in the river were the piranhas. Of course, there were also some inconspicuous small fish that could directly eat the giant fish, as well as some big fish that threatened the hull from time to time. Xiaofan had already told Yan Ji and the others about the threats in the river. This time, there were many people, and not only Xiaofan was rowing. Just like last year, they used the sails, oars and cha-cha to pull them forward. With the experience of last time, Xiaofan was mentally prepared about what to pay attention to this time. Especially when they encountered invisible air pressure descending from the sky, they were prepared in advance. They were prepared, not overly curious, and focused on moving forward. Generally speaking, it went smoothly. However, sailing on the river again, Xiaofan always had a very strange feeling. He couldn't tell why, but he always felt that the boat should be able to go faster. Although he couldn't figure out what that feeling was, it wasn't a sense of crisis. Xiaofan couldn't figure it out, so he didn't think about it anymore. He put this question in his heart first, and thought about it carefully when he had time. For Yan Ji and the others, no matter what kind of trouble was around them, they only knew that the Yanjiao tribe was on the other side of the river, and that was enough. When Xiaofan and the others were sailing on the river, the Yanjiao tribe had been restless since the rainy season, and had not calmed down, especially after the end of the rainy season. Do you think Xian will come back?" Lang Jie asked, playing with the freshly polished stone arrowhead in his hand. "I don't know," Mai said, arranging his hunting tools. The shaman said that Xian had already arrived at the old haunt. "Do you think that Xian will come back after playing there for a few years?" Lang Jie asked again. Mai didn't answer this time. None of them knew what the situation on the other side of the river was like. Mai's silence did not shut Lang Jie up. He continued to talk to himself. What are the people in the other tribes like? If Xian can come back safely this time, will we be able to go to the other side of the river like him next year, to the old haunt that the shaman mentioned? Lang Jie was not the only one who thought this way. Lang Ga's thoughts were also the thoughts of most people in the tribe. Over the past year, the tribe had changed a lot. Just think about it a little and you would know. Even the two team leaders who had always been at odds with each other put aside their differences. In the past, there would have been a hunt after the end of the rainy season. However, this year, the two team leaders were not in the mood to lead the team. After a discussion, the shaman and the chief agreed. Every day, there would be quite a number of people loitering by the riverbank. The continuous sunny weather after the rainy season was supposed to be a good day for hunting and bathing. However, whether it was adults or children, on the mountain or at the foot of the mountain, no one was in the mood to do anything else. Whenever they were free, they would stare at the river. As the days passed, the river level began to drop. Will Xian come back or not? Have you forgotten about it? Don't talk nonsense. Once the river level began to drop, it would only drop faster and faster every day. They were anxious. They didn't know how long they would have to walk on the river. Seeing the river level drop day by day, they were also anxious. From the end of the rainy season to the full moon, whether Xiaofan could come back or not depended on this period. There were many fish fences on the riverbank. As the fences left the river one by one, the people who walked around the riverbank every day ate less and became thinner in a few days. On this day, the two team leaders who walked around the riverbank every day looked at each other and sighed. They both saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. They already thought that Xiaofan would not come back this year. What about another year? 1 year, they didn't think so before, but now they felt that it was a long time. While they were sighing, Kiki, who was poking at the sand and staring at the river, suddenly stood up and stared at the river in the distance. Ta and Gigu saw Kiki like this, and their hearts trembled. They didn't have time to think about anything else, and hurriedly looked at the river in the distance. Yangguang was a little dazzling. The ripples on the river reflected the golden light. Further away, where the river met the sky, it was a little blurry. However, this didn't prevent Ta and Gigu from seeing the little black spot where the water met the sky. Is it Xian? Ta's voice trembled. In the past, he didn't like Xiaofan very much. However, since he knew more, he also understood that whether the tribe could go out or not depended on Xiaofan. His attitude towards Xiaofan naturally changed, and he also had unprecedented expectations. Because of his high hopes, Ta was still a little hesitant and didn't believe it when he saw the little black spot on the river. Yes, it must be Xian. Who else could it be? Boss, it must be him. Kiki and the others standing next to Ta all answered. Ta didn't pay attention to them, but looked at Gigu, waiting for Gigu's answer. Gigu stared at the river. When the little black spot got closer and closer, the muscles on Gigu's originally tense face trembled, and his eyes were filled with ecstasy. Yes. Look at the sky. There was a shadow in the sky. Is that Cha-Cha? Ha. Ha. Gigu laughed out loud. He held the wooden whistle, took a deep breath, and blew it with all his strength. The sound of the wooden whistle, which was as clear as the chirping of birds in the forest, was extremely harsh at this time. However, the people in the tribe who heard the whistle didn't think it was unpleasant at all. Because it was made by the people on the shore, and the sound meant that the thing they were looking forward to might happen on the river. The whistle only sounded once and then stopped. It wasn't that Gigu didn't want to continue, but that he used too much strength and the wooden whistle broke. The whistle was blown to pieces, which showed how excited Gigu was at this moment. The shaman said that as long as Xiaofan came back, there would be hope for everything they wanted to do. For thousands of years, they were about to achieve what their ancestors had been looking forward to. Jiao, a long eagle cry pierced through the sky and spread to the tribe. Caesar didn't wait for Old Ku to get on his back, and ran towards the river bank, leaving Old Ku alone. He looked at Caesar's back and shook his walking stick hard. However, he didn't show any anger on his face. Instead, his red eyes were filled with joy. Roar! The animals on the mountainside and the top of the mountain roared when they heard the sound that had disappeared for a year. The shaman stood on the top of the mountain and rushed down the mountain. He was even more excited than when he heard that the bodies of his ancestors had been found. It had been a year. During this year, the shaman had been thinking about what would happen if Xiaofan succeeded, and what would happen if he failed. Shamanus was under tremendous pressure, and in just a year, Shamanus seemed to have aged even more. Soon, a large number of people gathered by the river bank. It was even more grand than when the hunting team returned. Almost everyone who could walk gathered by the river bank. Those who couldn't walk or were injured were carried by those who could walk. Standing at the front were the shaman, the chief, the team leaders, and some old men who had more power on the mountain. This was the only place where no one dared to squeeze. As for the other places on the river bank, everyone wanted to stand at the front and watch. However, the space was limited, so they could only squeeze with their strength. Even the fish fence made by Xiaofan and Lang Jie was full of people. It was like a fighting ring. Whoever wanted to go up had to rely on their strength. It was really hard to imagine how these burly men could squeeze onto the stone pillars that were much thinner than them. "Hey, don't push. Why are you pushing? Go back. Don't push, or I'll beat you to death." The person standing at the front of the river bank felt a strong push from behind. He turned his head and was about to yell, but when he saw Caesar's figure, which was even taller than him, he immediately swallowed his words and voluntarily stepped aside. How could he not? Caesar was baring his teeth. If he didn't step aside, he would be bitten and thrown away. Xiaofan also saw the people by the river bank. He stood at the bow and waved his hand. He shouted to them, "I'm back." Ouch! Caesar howled to the sky and squeezed the people next to him. He was so excited that he wanted to jump into the water. If there were not so many uncertain factors in the river, he would have jumped into the water. Is that our tribe? Yan Ji and the others' hearts were beating fast. The words, "our tribe," had a life-changing meaning to them. They could feel the friendly aura coming from the other side. Before they even saw the land, they could already feel it. It was the affinity that belonged to the fire seed. It was a strong feeling that made their blood boil. Now, when they saw the people by the river bank, they felt that they were full of strength. They had been sailing on the river for such a long time and had become weak. That is our tribe. Yan Shua took the wooden oar and intended to paddle again. Although Cha-Cha was pulling the boat, they just wanted to go faster and get closer to the other side. Yan Ji had the same idea. When they were about to paddle again, they suddenly heard the sound of water breaking out from the back of the boat. They had heard this sound many times during the voyage. It was the sound of a fish jumping out of the water. Judging from the sound of the water, it was a big fish. Yan Ji and the others' hearts sank at the same time. When they encountered this situation on the water, Xiaofan and Cha-Cha were the ones dealing with it. However, Xiaofan was standing at the bow and Xiaofan didn't seem to turn around to help. The shadow was getting closer and closer. Yan Ji turned his head and saw the scales on the fish, which were bigger than his palm, and the dense fangs in its mouth. If they didn't take any action, the fish would directly eat Yan Ji and Yan Shua, who were the closest to it. If they fell on the boat would be overturned. The fish was getting closer and closer. Yan Ji could even smell the fishy smell coming from the fish. They were so close. Would they be buried in the fish's belly? Yan Ji and Yan Shua felt that their hands and feet were cold. They could only hold the wooden oars and try their best, although they knew that with their strength, they couldn't compete with the big fish. However, before Yan Ji and Yan Shua could take action, in the next moment, they felt a piercing sound coming from the other side of the river. An austere and cold wind quickly swept over their exposed skin, almost causing goosebumps to appear on their bodies. Whoosh! 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 Thin and thick spears and long and short stone knives shot past Yan Shua and Yan Ji and nailed the fish. Puff! In an instant, blood splashed everywhere. Chapter 214. In an instant, the jumping fish was almost nailed into a hedgehog by the spears and stone knives. After the spears and stone knives were nailed into the fish was directly pushed away from the top of the boat. Before the fish fell, a variety of stone tools were thrown one after another. In an instant, the fish that had been nailed into a hedgehog became even more miserable. Whoosh! A stone pillar, as thick as a thigh and much longer than a person, directly hit the fish like a spear. It was a stone pillar from one of the fish fences. Someone directly pulled it out and threw it as a weapon. Yan Ji and the others only heard a muffled sound. Blood splashed and splashed on their faces. When he looked over again, he saw that the big fish with sharp teeth that leaped up had just been pierced into a hedgehog, and a hole had been smashed into it by the stone pillar. From the moment the fish jumped to the moment it fell into the water again, Xiaofan didn't turn around, as if he had known this would happen. Such a violent and bloody scene left Yan Ji and the others, in addition to the moment of shock, with unprecedented excitement. To put it bluntly, it was the feeling of having a backer. They were no longer a weak group. Behind them, there were many, many people, and even more powerful existences. Once, Yan Ji asked a man of the Longboat tribe what it was like to have a tribe. The good-tempered old man said to him, "It's like, when a crisis comes, if you can't deal with it alone, it's okay. Look back, there is a tribe behind you." Yan Ji still remembered the proud look in the old man's eyes when he said this. Although the old man had been bullied in the Longboat tribe, he knew that sometimes, the tribe was his strongest support. And Yan Ji finally felt this kind of dependence and reliance. The splashing blood made the piranhas in the river more active. However, because of Cha-Cha's flying and pulling, the boat was quickly approaching the shore. The piranhas in the river temporarily focused on the same kind of people who had fallen into the water and were badly mutilated and couldn't be seen clearly. After not coming back for a year, Cha-Cha was more excited than Caesar. After going out for a walk, it felt that the tribe was better. It was more comfortable in the forest. When flying outside, it had to consider whether it was in someone else's territory. In addition, there were only two of them, Xiaofan, and it had to think twice before doing anything. If it encountered any trouble, it could only solve it by itself. This feeling made it very uncomfortable, and the food it ate was not good. It felt that it had not grown much in the past year. Now that it was finally back, Cha-Cha's first thought was to improve its food. Looking at the fast-approaching boat, the people of the Yanjiao tribe were very happy. There were several people behind Xiaofan. This was the first time they saw other people besides the people who grew up in the tribe. As the boat quickly approached, the shaman looked at Cha-Cha, who forgot to slow down in the air, and asked the people to quickly get out of the way. "Hurry up, let's get out of here." Since the shaman had spoken, the people naturally obeyed, and the crowd immediately opened up a gap. As a result, the place in the straight line of the boat's route was quickly cleared. The boat rushed straight to the shore, and the sand was splashed up. The people who were close to the boat were splashed with smelly mud, but they did not mind. They raised their hands to wipe the mud on their faces, smelled it, and grimaced in disgust. They wiped the mud on their arms, on their bodies, and continued to chase the boat. "Cha-Cha, stop! Loosen the rope on your claws!" Xiaofan shouted into the air. Caesar was already dragging the stern of the boat from behind, slowing down the speed of the boat after it went ashore. Feeling the pull from his claws and hearing Xiaofan's shout, Cha-Cha, who was immersed in the joy of returning and thinking about the various prey in the forest, finally came back to his senses. Loosening the rope on his claws, Cha-Cha saw Old Ku slowly limping over from behind. He immediately flew towards Old Ku. Looking at Cha-Cha in the sky, Old Ku sighed in his heart. He felt like a child who had finally grown up and was finally back from a trip. However, before Old Ku could finish his thoughts, Cha-Cha grabbed him and lifted him up. Old Ku was speechless. On the other side, Xiaofan jumped down from the boat that had stopped. He patted Caesar's wolf head, and then walked towards the shaman and the chief. "I'm back. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back." The shaman's face wrinkled with a rare smile. The shaman didn't ask too much at this moment. He just exchanged a look with Xiaofan. Xiaofan patted the animal skin coat on his chest, and the wrinkles on his face deepened. The people in the tribe had too many questions to ask Xiaofan, but Xiaofan didn't have time to answer them one by one. After greeting Mai, Lang Jie, and the others, he saw Old Ku put down by Cha-Cha. Without saying anything, Xiaoxian gave Old Ku a hug. "Welcome home." Old Ku's eyes were glistening with tears, and he said with a smile. After greeting the people in the tribe, Xiaoxian didn't forget to introduce Yanji and the others, but he didn't go into details. He only said that they were tribesmen who had been stranded outside and hadn't fully awakened. The shaman and Chief Ao knew that there must be more to it, but now it was not the time to ask for details. Seeing the shaman and chief, Yanji and the others were at a loss. They were so excited that they didn't know what to say. Although Xiaoxian had told them about the tribe's etiquette, they were so excited that they forgot it. Seeing them like this, the shaman and chief didn't blame them. "Ta, Gigu, you two take them to have a rest. This trip is too tiring. Let them have a rest." Ao said. Yes. Even though Xiaoxian said that Yanji and the others hadn't fully awakened and were very weak, the two team leaders didn't mind. They ordered their subordinates to prepare some food for ordinary people. They couldn't eat ominous beast meat for the time being, because they couldn't bear it. When Ta and Gigu took Yanji and the others up the mountain, an enthusiastic ant squeezed through, lifted the burly Jiao Wu with one hand, weighed him, and said regretfully, "Not strong enough." Jiao Wu. After saying this, the ant patted Jiao Wu's shoulder with a very warm smile, and said earnestly, "Young people, eat more meat." Some people around put food in Yanji and the others' hands, but the team leaders said that they hadn't awakened, so some things couldn't be eaten. It was a pity. The people who stayed on the shore surrounded the boat that was anchored on the shore. "Hey, is this also a boat?" "Of course it is a boat. But it looks better than the one we made last year." A totem warrior didn't control his strength well, and pinched a crack in the wooden boat that had just been through wind and waves. He quickly withdrew his hand. "It looks good, but it's not strong enough. Let's make a strong one like this in the future." "Yes, yes." The people around the boat nodded. Xiaoxian said a few words to Old Ku, and then went up the mountain with the shaman and the chief. The people who wanted to ask about the affairs of the other tribes had to wait for a while. Xiaoxian went up the mountain with the shaman, and once again came to the stone house of the shaman. He went in with familiarity, poured himself a glass of water, and gulped it down. Then, under the expectant eyes of the chief and the shaman, he took out an animal skin bag from his animal skin coat, and took out 4 animal skin rolls. These two were written by the shaman and the chief of the drumming tribe respectively. "This is a map I drew. There have been a lot of changes over there, so I'm afraid that the maps left by the ancestors can't be used anymore. But the time is too short, so I can't go through many places, so it's not specific enough. The last one is the summary of my trip." After giving the 4 animal skin rolls to the shaman and the chief, Xiaoxian took out some small gifts he brought back, such as shell coins, jade, water moonstones, etc. He wrote down the origins and uses of these things on the last animal skin roll. After putting down the things, Xiaoxian didn't stay for long, and went down the mountain to rest. After such a long time of sailing on the water, he had to protect Yanji and the others. Xiaoxian consumed a lot of energy. After the excitement of coming back, he felt more tired. He needed to have a good rest tonight. If there was anything else, he could talk about it tomorrow. And the things he left behind were enough for the shaman and the chief to discuss for a long time. After Xiaoxian left, the shaman and the chief tremblingly picked up the animal skin rolls given by Xiaoxian, and carefully read the last one. This was the first time they came into contact with things outside the tribe. That night, the shaman and the chief gathered all the prestigious people in the tribe to discuss the migration of the tribe. In fact, it was not a migration, but a return. Now, there was finally hope to return to the old haunt. Chapter 2:15. Xiaoxian's return changed the atmosphere of the tribe once again. The people in the tribe had doubts before, but now they were very sure and looking forward to it. In the morning, Xiaofan walked out of the door, felt the yang-guang in the sky, and stretched. The soup is ready, and the meat is almost done. Eat it before you go up the mountain. Old Ku said in the house. He had prepared the food early in the morning and started to polish the stone tools. Okay. Xiaofan answered. After a night of rest, all the fatigue from sailing on the water had disappeared, and he was very energetic. It felt like he hadn't slept so well in a long time. Because he had told the shaman yesterday that he would go up the mountain to discuss today, Xiaofan did not delay any longer. He took the roasted meat that was almost done, poured a bowl of soup, and ate it. After the meat and soup entered his stomach, the emptiness in his stomach disappeared, and he felt very comfortable. Vicious beast meat is really delicious. Xiaofan wiped his mouth, said goodbye to old Ku, and went up the mountain. In the past year, because of the shaman's influence, the distance between the people on the mountain and the people at the foot of the mountain had narrowed a lot, and the once clear division of classes had become blurred. The shaman said that if they could go out, everyone would be in the same group. Outside, there was only the Yanjiao tribe, and there was no distinction between the top and the bottom. Perhaps there were still many people who did not understand, and their thinking had not changed. Even the chief and many people on the mountain would not change their thinking before they went out. However, this was all temporary. When going up the mountain, many people saw Xiaofan and wanted to ask more questions, but they knew that Xiaofan was going to the shaman's place, so they did not dare to say much. They just greeted him, and then watched Xiaofan go up the mountain. When he got up the mountain, he did not even need to take out the shaman's badge, and no one stopped him. The people on the mountain looked at Xiaofan with sparkling eyes. Even the old men who usually liked to put on airs had kind looks on their faces. When Xiaofan entered the house, only the shaman was there, and the others had just left. After a night without rest, the shaman was also tired, but the excitement in his eyes did not diminish. Yesterday, he had read the animal skin scroll written by the shaman of the drumming tribe and knew about the cooperation between the drumming tribe and the Xiaofan. You did very well. The shaman said. If other people in the tribe were praised by the shaman, they would be so excited that they wanted to jump up, but the one sitting in front of the shaman was Xiaofan. Xiaofan calmly sat down across the table. So, what's the decision between you and the chief? Move. His voice resonated. The shaman's answer was within Xiaofan's expectation. Last night, several high-level officials who had been discussing on the mountaintop all night had made a general decision. In the following days, they would do their best to prepare for their return to the old haunt. It could take a year or two, or even longer. After all, it had been nearly 1,000 years since their ancestors came here. Generation after generation, this branch of Yanjiao tribesmen had already been living here. There was no doubt that they would return. This was the obsession in the hearts of everyone who knew about the bold haunt, starting from their ancestors. Just like what old he had told Xiaofan, the Yanjiao tribe's roots were still there, so they had to go back. Of course, they could also use other methods to bring the roots back, but no one in the tribe was willing to do that. The word old haunt had already been deeply imprinted in their minds when they knew about it. You mean, everyone in the tribe will move there? Xiaofan asked. Everyone. The shaman's tone was very certain. The fire seed was there, and the tribe was there. If they moved the tribe, the fire seed would naturally be taken with them. If the fire seed was taken away, everyone in the tribe would have to take it with them. Without the fire seed, it would not be so peaceful. The nearby ferocious beasts would slowly infiltrate this place. The fire seed's deterrence to ferocious beasts was not to be underestimated. Just like in the old haunt, even if it was just an underground fire vein, ferocious beasts rarely appeared there. What about here? Xiaofan asked. To be honest, Xiaofan was quite reluctant to leave this place. Compared to the other side of the river, this side of the tribe was really quite peaceful. Where there were people, there were disputes. Most of the time, it was not only about killing and robbing, but also more complicated. Would people who had lived here since childhood be able to adapt to the life there? Xiaofan was really worried about this. This is our way of retreat. The shaman stood at the window, looking into the distance. If we can't establish a foothold in the old haunt, we will retreat again and recuperate. When we are strong enough, we will go back. The shaman's idea of going back was very firm, probably because of the things left by the ancestors, the influence of those words, and also because of the shaman's duty. Communication with other tribes will promote the progress of civilization. This is good. However, the temperament of the tribesmen was relatively simple and still needed to be trained. The shaman looked in the direction of the river. We have to go out first. Once we go out, we will naturally adapt. If they couldn't adapt, as he said just now, they would retreat, recuperate and recuperate. By the way, did you read the animal skin roll I gave you yesterday? Xiaofan asked. Yes. Because he had read it, the shaman thought a lot, and his desire to go back was even stronger. The Yinjiao tribe should not be forgotten as a strong warrior in the central region. Xiaofan alone was far from enough to let more people know about the Yinjiao tribe. Although I don't have much contact with the big tribes in the central region, I know that there are many strong warriors in each tribe. Strength, as far as I know, although there are not many senior totem warriors in each tribe, compared to our tribe, there are still a lot. After all, the population of our tribe is still too small. When we return to the old haunt, although more wanderers will gather here, before that, we have to have enough strength to make them fear us. Xiaofan said. Hearing Xiaofan's words, the shaman was silent for a while. He naturally understood Xiaofan's concerns. However, the improvement of strength could not be decided overnight. What do you mean? Since Xiaofan mentioned it, the shaman knew that he must have something else to say. Xiaofan smiled, took out a fiery red crystal from the animal skin bag, and waved it at the shaman. This fire crystal? The number of fire crystals is still too small. The shaman frowned. Of course, it could be given to the elites of the elites, but it was too small for the whole tribe. Fire crystals were hard to find. People in the central region rarely eat ferocious beasts. Most of their food is grown and raised, not ferocious beasts. Therefore, they can only absorb a small amount of high-grade energy from those foods. It can be said that many big tribes in the central region rely on fire crystals to improve themselves, in addition to their own training. Many times, disputes over fire crystals can lead to the destruction of the whole tribe. Xiaofan told the shaman what had happened. It was the massacre that happened when he and the traveling team of the Pu tribe went to the central region. Fire crystals are naturally precious. The shaman still did not quite understand Xiaofan's meaning. If you can find more fire crystals, use them here. Xiaofan said. The shaman's eyes suddenly widened, looking at Xiaofan. More fire crystals? Do you still remember the place where we found the fire crystals, the bat cave? Didn't you say that we can't go there anymore? I want to try again. When Xiaofan came out of the shaman's stone house, it was already noon. Looking at the scorching sun in the sky, Xiaofan took a deep breath and let out a long sigh. The trip to the central region was very short, so he did not have much contact with the big tribes there. After all, people in the big tribes began to guard against someone they did not know. Xiaofan could not get in at all. The only people who talked more were the two people from the Mang tribe and the Eight Limbs tribe. The others did not bother to talk to Xiaofan. And that trip made Xiaofan more aware of the importance of the tribe in this big environment. If the tribe was strong, Xiaofan would have more protection. Fire crystals were undoubtedly a very good way to improve in a short period of time. Last time, because of the vampire bats, they did not dig deeper. But Xiaofan believed that there should be more. It was very likely that there was a fire crystal mine there. Xiaofan also heard about the fire crystal mine when he walked around in the central region. For a fire crystal mine, there might be disputes between two or more tribes. And now, in the forest, there might be a fire crystal mine, and no tribe came to fight with them for it. Xiaofan certainly would not let go of such an opportunity. For this, Xiaofan was willing to go there and take the risk again. 2 days later, the shaman and the chief proposed the return plan, which also indicated that the tribe's return trip was officially put on the agenda. Although the time was not set, it showed the tribe's attitude. In the next few years, this plan would be the center. From the day the shaman and the chief proposed the return plan, the tribe began to officially mobilize all the people. Last year was just a warm-up, and from this day on, it was the real fight for the return. First of all, they had to take good care of their bodies, especially those who lived at the foot of the mountain, who were in poor conditions. The tribe would provide more food for those thin children. Every child was the future of the tribe. But the shaman also said that the tribe did not need useless people. If they did not take this opportunity to improve themselves, then, humph. The shaman did not say what they would do, but everyone was worried that they would be left behind. The tribe had left, and if they were left behind, how could they survive in this wild mountain? The healthy people had their tasks, and the disabled people also had ways to prove their value. For example, Old Ku would make more stoneware every day. The people at the foot of the mountain only needed to exchange a few things from Old Ku. With Xiaofan, Old Ku was not worried about food. Besides, Caesar and Cha-Cha often went out to drag prey back. At the foot of the mountain, Old Ku was already the richest person. When Xiaofan and the others came back, it was almost the full moon. The hunting team would go out after the full moon. At that time, the hunting team members would go out twice as often as before. In addition to hunting, the warriors also needed to collect wood to build boats. There were many choices of high-quality wood in the mountains, so they did not need to worry about this. The difficult part was how to build a bigger boat. Yanji and the others could build a small boat, but they were not sure how to build a big boat like the one in the longboat tribe. They needed more time to try. If they could not build a big boat, the tribe could not move. After all, this was a big migration of more than 2,000 people. Chapter 2:16. This time, in order to build the boat, the technical workers in the tribe also joined in. Regardless of whether they were doing woodwork or setting traps, all the skilled people participated in this work. Because they were skilled, they learned things quickly. What Yanji and the others had mastered, the skilled workers in the tribe could also quickly master. When the time came, everyone would discuss and brainstorm together, and eventually they would be able to make something. Xiaofan often joined in their discussions. Although Xiaofan was not proficient in building boats, he had seen more big boats and could give more suggestions on the design. When the hunting team went out, they had to prepare food, wood, herbs, and various other necessities. At the same time, they had to improve their strength. Without strength, how could they fight in the tribe? Of course, they had to keep their lives. Otherwise, it was not worthwhile. On the mountain, Yanji and the others had been settled down. Because it was not the time of the annual sacrifice, they had not awakened their totem power yet. They had to wait until the beginning of next year, when they could awaken their totem power with the next batch of children who met the conditions. Although they had to wait for half a year, Yanji and the others were very happy. After all, they were back in the tribe. They were no longer rootless duckweeds and would not be bullied by others. After living in the tribe for a few days, they also learned about the living conditions of the tribe. They had confidence in the Yanjiao tribe and were looking forward to the tribe moving back to the old land. How is it? Yan Zhua asked his wife, who came in from outside. He knew that his wife had been trying to make pottery these days. Yan Zhen shook her head. It can't be done. The eyes of the several old men sitting next to her also became gloomy. As Xiaofan said, even if they had the technology of making pottery, they could not make pottery here. What they made was either broken or fragile. It was no wonder that in the past 1,000 years, the Yanjiao tribe had basically used stone tools. It's okay, Xing suppressed his disappointment and said with a smile, when we go back to the old land, we will try again. Yes, when we go back to the old land, everything will be different. The other old men also said. Yan Ji and the others were settled here. It was said that they were taking care of them, but in fact, everyone wanted to know more information from them. Being tyrannical in the nest was different from being tyrannical outside. Once they were outside, if they wanted to continue being tyrannical, they would need to have the capital and strength to be tyrannical. Just like hunting, it was better to know the habits of the prey. If they wanted to know the situation on the other side of the river, the best way was to learn from Yan Ji and the others. While Yan Ji and the others were talking about pottery, they saw people walking down the path of glory from the top of the mountain. Are those the hunting team? Yan Ji suppressed his excitement and asked. Yes, because the plan has changed. From now on, there will be more people going out each time, an old man said. Hunting. Ominous beasts? Jiao Wu still couldn't believe it. The hunting team is quite imposing. An old man said. Xing glanced over and said, because the leader told them that on the other side of the river, there are many people who are stronger than the beasts. This time, there are probably many people who want to use the beasts to practice. Yan Ji and the others, there were many people who were more powerful than ferocious beasts. These words were slightly exaggerated. However, it seemed that many people in the tribe believed it. Xiaofan was also in the hunting team this time. He still left with Mai and the others. However, when they left the tribe and entered the familiar forest, all the members of the advance group, who were supposed to go to the Green Land, went to the Bat Mountain with Xiaofan. The other 5 hunting teams, which had expanded their numbers, and the hunting team that had opened up a new hunting route, had a total of 6 hunting teams of more than 500 people. However, they all stayed in the first hunting area to hunt. In the following time, unless they received the news, the leaders of the hunting teams would not continue to lead the team forward. This was also to prevent Xiaofan from being in danger, so that they could go to his rescue. However, except for several small leaders and several important people in the team, no one else knew about this. They only thought that it was because of the change of the return plan, so they didn't ask much. On the other side, after Xiaofan, Ta, and the others separated from the hunting team, they waited for a while and met up with Gigu and the others. Finding the fire crystals was a big deal. It was related to the return of the tribe, so the shaman and the chief attached great importance to it. Naturally, they had to send more people. At the same time, Ta and Gigu were also summoned by the shaman. He told them that if it was too difficult to find the fire crystals, they could give up, but they must ensure the safety of Xiaofan. The 2 team leaders also understood the significance of Xiaofan to the tribe. This guy might be really blessed by the ancestors, so they had to protect him. The 2 team leaders and their subordinates were so active. They also regretted that they couldn't participate in the fire crystal digging. After such a long time, they finally had such an opportunity again. Naturally, they wouldn't let it go. They had already learned about the condition of the vampire bats from the warriors in the hunting team. They also prepared herbs to prevent people from losing their ability to move after being bitten. Xiaofan took them to the giant pit where the fire crystals were dug. When they arrived at the foot of the mountain, they found 2 people standing there. Father? Ta was surprised. The people standing at the foot of the mountain were the chief Ao and another senior totem warrior, Dai, whose strength was similar to Ao's. Chief? Why are you here? Xiaofan asked. He didn't ask the chief to come here before. The shaman is worried, so am I. Ao smiled. However, when he looked at the mountain in front of him, which was not very tall, the smile on Ao's face disappeared. Dai, who was beside him, also had a serious look on his face. It's not easy, Dai said. Looking at the tall mountain in the distance, Ao asked, those bats, did they all fly there? Yes. Xiaofan nodded. No. Ao shook his head. Not all of them. The mountain in front of us is like this now. It must be caused by the bats. They came back often. Not a single blade of grass could be seen on the mountain, which was not very high. Most of the plants on the mountain had withered. The plants that were still growing on the mountain were almost all highly poisonous plants. There were also extremely rare medicinal plants, but they were very rare. Compared with the last time, it has changed a lot. Xiaofan said, the last time I came here, it was not so serious. If it was the poisonous miasma caused by the corpses in the mountain, it would be too much. There was some black fog floating in the open air of the mountain. That was to say, it was very likely that, as Ao said, bats often came here, so it caused such a change. Why did those bats still come to this small place after they migrated? Logically speaking, with a new and bigger place, why did they still stay in this small place? It should have been abandoned. Is there really a fire crystal mine here? Ta's eyes flashed. Anyway, let's go in and have a look. Ao said. Wearing the rattan mask, they went to the giant pit on the mountain. For the tribe, even if it was dangerous, they had to go. Chapter 217. This time, Cha-Cha and Caesar came with them. Cha-Cha was searching in the sky. If he found anything unusual, he would warn Xiaofan. Walking from the foot of the mountain to the top, they were surrounded by black miasma. If a junior totem warrior was here, he might not be able to withstand it. Even Kiki and the others felt a little uncomfortable. Xian, did you encounter this when you came here last time? Kiki asked. No, last time, there was only miasma in the cave. Outside the mountain, there was grass and other plants. Xiaofan said. But now, as far as they could see, there were almost no trees. Even if there were, they were dead and rotten, not to mention the fresh green grass. It was all because of the miasma. Everyone was slightly nervous. They knew that the mission this time was not simple. While walking, Xiaofan stopped and listened carefully. It was like the sound he heard when he came here last time. There was a rhythmic sound of air flow, like someone was breathing. What's wrong, Xian? Gigu, who was walking behind Xiaofan, asked confusedly. What did you find? Ao, who was in the front, also stopped. The breathing sound could not be heard by others, not even by Ao. It's here. Xiaofan said. It? Ta thought of something and became serious. The bat leader? Xiaofan nodded. Didn't you say they went somewhere else? Kiki turned his head and looked at the mountain in the distance. Looking from here, they could see the mountain in the distance, which was much higher than the surrounding mountains. The mountain was surrounded by clouds and mist, and the top of the mountain was covered with white snow. That was the place where the bats had gone. Later, it was confirmed that the bats had occupied that place, and all the cave bears had been driven away. I don't know why, but I am sure that the bat leader is in this mountain. Xiaofan pointed at the foot and said. After some thought, Ao said, let's go up and take a look. The last time he dug out the fire crystals, it was in the giant pit on the mountain. This time, he naturally had to go to the giant pit to have a look. As they continued to climb up the mountain, Xiaofan told Caesar not to get too close. He also gestured to Cha-Cha in the sky to stop them from following them. In the wild, there was a strong sense of repulsion between vicious beasts. A single mistake could lead to an intense and endless conflict. The mountain was not high, and they soon arrived at the crater at the top of the mountain. The last time Xiaofan had found this place to help search for people, he could still clearly see the situation in the sinkhole and the various plants growing on the walls of the sinkhole. But now, it was completely different. The black fog was even thicker than the fog at the foot of the mountain. The originally clear sky seemed a little gloomy because of the poisonous miasma. Under the sinkhole, there was an even thicker poisonous miasma. The people standing above could not see the situation below the sinkhole at all. What should we do? Tower and Gigu both looked at Ao. Since the leader was here, he naturally listened to the leader. Dai and I will go down and have a look first. Ao said, putting down a bundle of thick straw rope made of rattan and grass. He and Dai went down along the straw rope, one in front of the other. The others stared at the sinkhole nervously, even though they could not see anything. There were no other bats around. From the foot of the mountain to the top, they did not see any other bats. But Xiaofan listened to the rhythmic breathing sound and was very worried. He still remembered that last time when he and Mai went into the cave and encountered the bat leader, they were almost collectively killed. Seeing the look on Xiaofan's face, Tua said, "Don't worry. The leader and the team leaders are here. Nothing will happen." The others also thought so. Last time, when the 5 hunting groups dug out the fire crystals and went back, they told the others about the vampire bats. Everyone was very afraid, but no one thought that the accident would happen again in the case of the leader and several senior totem warriors. After all, the members of the hunting group were basically beginner and middle-level totem warriors. Compared with the warriors in the advanced group and the senior totem warriors, they were much weaker. Even Ao and the 2 team leaders felt that they could fight it out if they worked together. Only Xiaofan was not so optimistic. They waited for a while, but did not hear anything below. Ao and Dai, who went down to check, also came up. They did not have any other injuries. I didn't see anything. Only some ferocious beast corpses. Ao said. Ferocious beast corpses? They did not see them last time. Anyway, let's go down and see if there are any fire crystals. Dai said. Tower, Gigu, Wei. Ao pointed to 5 people, go in with me and Dai. Xian, you go with us. The rest of you will stay outside and listen to the whistle when the time comes. Yes. The people Ao pointed to were all senior totem warriors. Xiaofan, who could sense the fire crystals, naturally had to go down. He was the only intermediate totem warrior, so he was protected in the middle. Walking down along the straw rope, Xiaofan felt more and more confused. Something is wrong. Xiaofan said. The others did not say anything, but Xiaofan knew that they were listening. After carefully checking around and finding no other creatures, Xiaofan said, last time we came here, the giant pit was not so deep. When his feet finally touched the ground, Xiaofan checked around again. Still, he found nothing. The sound of breathing was still clear, but even Xiaofan could only hear the rhythmic breathing sound. He could not judge the specific direction, whether it was far or near. The feeling of uneasiness was getting stronger. At this time, it was noon. In the forest outside, Yangguang was shining brightly. However, in the giant pit, it was as dark as night. The black miasma in the giant pit almost blocked the light from above. Fortunately, the people who came down had better eyesight than the others, so they could see the surrounding situation with the dim light. However, they could only see part of it, and could not see further. The thick miasma still affected their vision. The stink was not strong, but it made people feel dizzy. They did not know whether it was the smell of the miasma or something else. He stuffed a stalk of herb into his mouth and chewed on it. The bitter and refreshing taste stimulated his nerves, clearing up his somewhat dizzy mind. No wonder the chief did not allow Kiki and the others to come down. Even intermediate totem warriors like Kiki and the others could not stay awake all the time. While thinking, Gigu turned his head and saw Xiaofan, who was carefully checking around. His idea was stuck. He was also an intermediate totem warrior, but he looked very sober. Compared with the last time he entered the bat cave, Xiaofan's immunity to the miasma was much stronger this time. Even if the miasma here was thicker, he could still stand it. There are great changes here. Xiaofan lowered his voice and said. The last time they were here, the 5 hunting groups had left many holes because they were digging for fire crystals. Now there were also pits on the ground, but they were much bigger than those left by the last hunting group. Looking carefully, there were some deep claw marks beside those pits. It was easy to guess who had caused them. However, looking at those claw marks, if it was the bat leader, it had grown a lot. In the giant pit, there was a stinky smell. There were many corpses around. Some only had skeletons left, and some still had fur, but they looked very shriveled, as if all the water in their bodies had been sucked away. No matter the skeletons or those with fur, they were all large ferocious beasts. Did it do it? Ao asked Xiaofan in a low voice. Yes, it should be. The bat leader was most likely to be the culprit. However, they didn't know why the bat leader would come back here after taking its brothers to fight for territory. It seemed that it had stayed here for a long time. Judging from the skeletons, it must have been here for more than a year. How strong was the bat leader that could catch these large ferocious beasts as food? Everyone was on high alert. Then, where are the fire crystals? Xian, can you find them? Ao asked. This was the primary purpose of their trip. The others also pricked up their ears, waiting for Xiaofan's reply. Yes. Xiaofan said. Where are they? Ao suppressed his excitement and asked in a low voice. Right under your feet. Xiaofan said doubtfully, there is one 10 steps to the right of team leader Ta, and there is one not far behind team leader Gigu. It was not like this before. So many? Ao immediately bent down, intending to dig with his knife. However, when he moved his feet, he felt that he had stepped on a hard block. He dug the soil with his knife and saw the crystal with a very familiar texture. Although he couldn't see clearly because of the light, Ao was sure that this was the fire crystal. Ao Ding Ding held his breath and looked at the thumb-sized crystal under his feet. This was the biggest fire crystal he had ever dug up in his life. When he was young, he had dug it up once by chance. It was completely out of luck. Many people couldn't dig it up even once in their lives, but he had encountered it. But at that time, he had only dug up a very small piece. Even so, he had been excited for a long time. But now, looking at the crystal under his feet, Ao still couldn't believe it. So simple? Such a big piece of fire crystal was found by him. Even as the leader, Ao couldn't react for a while. The so-called digging, was this how he dug it up? No, no. Just as Ao picked up that piece of fire crystal, a strong sense of crisis suddenly struck him. Be careful. Ao and Xiaofan almost shouted at the same time. However, the next moment, they found that their vision blurred, and they suddenly felt that their heads were about to explode. Their vision, hearing, and so on all disappeared at this moment. After a few seconds, they calmed down again, but everything around them seemed to have lost its sound. Ao Ning saw that Xiaofan, who was not far away, was saying something with his mouth wide open. Dai, who was next to him, was holding the huge stone hammer, and his mouth was opening and closing. Everyone seemed to have lost their sense of hearing at this moment. They couldn't hear other people's voices or the sound of the outside world, but they could clearly hear their own heartbeats. Bang! Bang! Following his intuition, Ao looked in one direction. Over there, a black shadow was approaching them quickly. He could see the folded wing arms and powerful hind legs of the other side. The figure was tall, but it seemed to be extremely light. There was no vibration under its feet at all. When it came closer, Ao Neng saw its big open mouth, and its nose and throat were moving strangely. This should be the reason why they couldn't hear the sound. Bat leader. At this moment, the first thing that Ao thought of was not how to hide the fire crystal, nor how to fight against the fast-approaching big guy. Instead, he rushed to Xiao Xian, grabbed Xiao Xian's collar, and threw him to the place where the rattan grass was placed before. Here, they couldn't hear any sound. Ao was not sure whether the people above the giant pit could hear the movement in the giant pit. What he needed to do now was to let Xiao Xian stay away from the battlefield, and then unite with the other 6 people to fight against the big guy. Xiao Xian was thrown out of the battle circle by Ao. Without Ao Duo's instruction, the others were ready to fight. The 7 people were all experienced totem warriors, and they were all the leaders of the hunting team. Everyone knew what they were facing now. This was a more powerful ferocious beast than the ones they had encountered in the forest before. A top ferocious beast. They must work together and do their best to kill this ferocious beast in the shortest time. Dai, who was closest to the bat leader, took action before the others. Deep flame lines appeared on his thick arms, and his arms swelled up and became thicker. He held a stone hammer that was as tall as a man, but it seemed that he could not feel the weight of the stone hammer. He moved quickly and swung it toward the bat leader. When he swung it, Dai's arms had accumulated all the strength in a very short time, and he suddenly smashed it down. If there was no interference from the bat leader, they could still hear the whistling sound of the stone hammer, as if it would forcibly break the air. Visible ripples spread from the collision, and the surrounding poisonous miasma seemed to be forcibly squeezed out of that small area at that moment. There were no splashing stone chips, and no sound of impact. However, at that moment, everything seemed to be frozen. When the stone hammer hit, the bat leader raised its folded wing claws and blocked the thunderous blow with its wings as a shield. While Dai Chao attacked the bat leader, the others also took action. Gigu's knife was directly bitten by the bat leader. The stone knife, which was bitten by the bat leader's teeth, seemed to be nailed there. No matter how hard Gigu tried, he could not pull it out. Ta, Wei and the others, who were attacking at the same time, were directly hit by the bat leader's wings before they could get close. Dai, who had swung the hammer twice, was hit on the wall of the pit, and his whole body was embedded in the wall. If it were not for his strong body, he would have been directly smashed into a meat patty. Ao, who had thrown Xiao Xian out, went to the side, and the totem power in his body was instantly mobilized to the peak state. With a twist of his wrist, the spear in his hand rotated at a high speed, and the flowing air became sharp, tearing the surrounding poisonous miasma, and piercing directly toward the bat leader's neck. However, the long spear in Ao's hand did not touch the side neck of the bat leader. Instead, it was pinched by the strange-looking wing claw. It used an even more powerful force to stop the swift and violent attack. Ao only felt that the spear in his hand was pulled out by a more powerful force, and the hand holding the stone spear was extremely painful, as if it had been pierced by thousands of hot thorns. Chapter 218. 7 senior totem warriors, who were almost the most powerful people in the Yanjiao tribe, attacked with all their strength. However, after a short fight, all of them collapsed. It was completely one-sided. What Xiao Xian was worried about happened. This was indeed the bat leader from before. However, compared to the time when it had transformed and broken out of its shell, it had become much stronger. If it had just transformed, Ao and the other 6 people would have been able to fight it. However, it was different now. No one had expected that such a ferocious beast could grow so fast. Was it just a ferocious beast? No, it was more than that. Before they came, Ao, Guehi, and the others thought that it was just a slightly more powerful beast. They did not expect that this beast had already started to move towards the king level. Moreover, it had taken quite a big step. Even if there were 10 or 100 senior totem warriors like Ao, they would not dare to confront the king beast. Speaking of the king beast, the people in the tribe would even hold a kind of awe. For Xiaofan, who had seen the king-level beast at a close distance, he clearly knew what kind of level it was. There was no way to resist it. Now, the bat leader had taken a big step toward the king beast, much faster than Xiaofan had expected. If it were not related to the fire crystals, even Ao would choose to stay away from such a ferocious beast instead of confronting it head-on. However, the fire crystals were related to their return to the old land. They could not give it up easily. Ao was blocked, and the spearhead had been broken by the wing claw. After Ao, 2 more warriors were directly slapped to the ground before they could get close, and their heads hit the ground heavily. Fortunately, there was a layer of soft mud at the bottom of the pit. Otherwise, they would have hit the hard rock directly. Even so, they were still injured. Blood flowed down from the wounds on their heads. Coupled with the sound wave attack that they could not hear, they suddenly felt as if their brains were about to explode. It was as if the entire world had become chaotic and was spinning. Blood flowed into their eyes, blurring their vision. Before Dai, who had just struggled out of the pit wall, the black wings flapped over like lightning, fanning Dai into the pit wall again. This time, Dai was embedded deeper. Ta and Wei's situation wasn't good either. Every time they thought they were one step away from success, they would be beaten back. Gigu looked at the developed incisors that were biting his stone knife. He looked up and met the pair of colorless but murderous eyes. At such a distance, even if he immediately released the handle of the stone knife, Gigu had no confidence in successfully avoiding this big guy whose strength completely suppressed them. Since he couldn't avoid it, he could only brace himself and face it. His hand that was holding the handle of the knife exerted force, and he jumped up with the help of the force. His other hand pulled out a smaller stone knife from behind his waist, and with the speed of lightning, he stabbed the bat leader's rapidly twitching nose. However, the imagined situation of the knife piercing into the bat's nose did not happen. Gigu, who jumped into the air, was caught by a wing claw. On the wing claw, the sharp claw made a long cut on Gigu's abdomen. If it had been deeper, it might have been directly cut open. Gigu avoided the vital parts just now, but the situation at the moment was not optimistic. Probably Gigu's behavior completely irritated the bat leader. Gigu only felt a sharp pain in his body. Although he couldn't hear the surrounding sounds, at the moment, he could clearly hear a series of bone-breaking sounds coming from inside his body. The stone knife that was bitten by the bat leader's incisors was directly crushed. As for Gigu, who dared to attack its nose, it didn't intend to let him go. The wing claw firmly grasped the little prey. It intended to use its sharp teeth to suck the little blood of the little prey, and then bite the bones of the prey and chew it. Looking at the teeth in the vampire bat's open mouth, Gigu felt that the blood in his body instantly dropped to the freezing point, and even the pain of the broken bones in his body faded away. Gigu thought that he was going to die, and that he would never be able to lead a team to hunt in the future. When encountering such a level of ferocious beast, no one could escape. However, those knife-like teeth stopped just as they were about to touch him. The surrounding sound seemed to come back again. The feeling that his head was about to explode gradually disappeared. At this moment, whether it was the people who were preparing to attack, the people who were beaten without any power to fight back, or the people who were almost eaten by the wing claw, they all found the bat leader's strange behavior. Its attention moved away from Gigu, moved a little, and then looked down. At its feet, a man stood. After seeing the man standing at the feet of the bat leader, Oh almost spat out blood. Didn't they throw this guy out? Shouldn't he climb out of the giant pit along the grass vines? Why did he appear here again? The shaman said that even if they couldn't bring back the fire crystals, they must bring Xiaofan back safely. Safe and sound. But, what about the situation now? Xian, get out of the way. Xian. Ao and Ta wanted to take this opportunity to attack and let Xiaofan escape. Stop! Xiaofan shouted in a hurry. Seeing Ao and the others stop what they were doing, Xiaofan looked up at the bat leader who was staring at him. Accompanied by the rhythmic sound of airflow, a black mist was exhaled from its mouth. Its wing claw moved and threw away the little prey that it was holding. It had no interest in that little prey now. If Ao and others could see the invisible energy, they would find that a trace of red energy was released from the fire crystal in Xiaofan's hand. Part of the released energy was absorbed by Xiaofan, and the other part floated into the body of the bat leader in front of him. Seeing that the bat leader was staring at him and no longer paying attention to others, Xiaofan said, "Chief, you go up first." "Impossible. Xian, leave quickly." "Chief, before we came," the shaman said, Xiaofan said. The shaman said that if there was a special situation, Xiaofan should be the first and listen to Xiaofan. Even if the chief joined them now, at this time, they had to think about the shaman's words. Looking at Xiaofan standing there and the bat leader, Ao didn't know what to do. What the hell was going on? For a time, everyone stood there and no longer attacked the bat leader, but they also maintained a high degree of vigilance. As long as it moved, they would attack again. Even if such an attack might not cause much harm to it, it could still divert its attention and delay time. Patter. The bat leader's wings moved. Ao and the others immediately tensed up and looked over there, only to find that the bat leader just retracted its wings, folded them, and continued to stand there. It meant that it didn't intend to attack for the time being. Xiaofan was relieved. Sure enough, he made the right bet. Just like last time, the bat leader was very interested in the energy of the fire crystal, which was one of the reasons why he was willing to take the risk. But just now, he couldn't tell others at all, and the battle began. If the bat leader could be quiet, everything would be easy. Time passed little by little. The bat leader didn't move, and Ao and others didn't leave. After checking everyone's injuries, Ao asked Ta and Wei to take Gigu, who was the most seriously injured, and another person out of the giant pit. He would continue to watch here. Chapter 219. Outside the giant pit, Kiki and the others were guarding outside. Caesar wanted to go up the mountain several times, but he was stopped. He could only walk around anxiously. They didn't hear any sound, but they could feel a little vibration, which was very strange. Several people also wanted to go down to see the situation, but before that, the leader had ordered them to wait for the whistle. They didn't hear the leader's whistle until now, so they couldn't act rashly. The sun had already set. What should we do? Kiki looked at Tua. Tua shook his head. As time went by, everyone became more and more uneasy. Hey, someone is coming up. The person guarding the edge of the giant pit shouted. It's team leader Ta. And Wei. The people who had been waiting outside the giant pit immediately went over. Ta and Wei found a place to put the two seriously injured people down the mountain and let them drink some medicine. They also needed a place without miasma to have a good rest, which would help them recover. Wei, you stay here first, I'll go down and have a look. After a pause, Ta said to the others, step back, don't get too close to the pit, and don't go down. After a short fight, Ta also knew the gap between them and the bat leader. That was not an ordinary ferocious beast. Even if the two advance groups all fought together, they might not be able to hurt the bat leader much. Instead, they might all be killed. In the giant pit, Xiaofan was still urging the power in his body to release the energy of the fire crystal in his hand. Fortunately, Xiaofan had been absorbing the energy of the fire crystal, so he was not too tired. However, there was a limit to everyone's absorption of the fire crystal. Just like the warriors who went to the fire pit to absorb the energy of the fire crystal, there was a limit to their improvement. It was impossible for a newly awakened junior totem warrior to reach the senior level. If they overestimated themselves and were too greedy, they might explode and die because they couldn't control the totem power in their body. Therefore, after feeling the limit, Xiaofan stopped absorbing. It would not be too late to absorb when he was tired. However, the big guy in front of him was still absorbing the red energy lines released from the fire crystal. If Ao could see those energy lines, he would be shocked. A ferocious beast could actually absorb the energy of the fire crystal. It's just that they never knew. The light from above was getting dimmer and dimmer. The thick miasma had already blocked most of the light, and now it was even dimmer. Ao did not know what would happen if he waited any longer. They did not like the dark night, which made them feel even more uneasy. Looking at the man and the bat who were still standing there, Ao cautiously moved towards Xiaofan. When Ao was only 2 steps away from Xiaofan, the bat leader suddenly looked at Ao. One of its wings moved, but it did not open. It was more like a warning. A drop of cold sweat slid down from Ao's forehead. He even breathed carefully. He could feel the warm black mist coming out of the bat's mouth and nostrils. Xiaofan gestured to Ao with his other hand, which was facing away from the bat, to tell Ao not to worry and not to come closer. Looking at the bat leader's wing claw, Ao decided to retreat first. Otherwise, if he angered the bat leader, Xiaofan, him, and the other people around would not be able to escape. When he was about to retreat, Ao could not help but glance at Xiaofan's arm, which was reaching out to the bat leader. He wanted to see what Xiaofan was holding in his hand. The light was very dim. Because Ao was closer and had good eyesight, even if he could not see the color of the thing in Xiaofan's hand, he could roughly judge what it was. Fire crystal? When he took a closer look, he found that the color of the fire crystal had become much lighter. The color of the fire crystal would only become lighter in one case. Ao had seen the fire crystal become lighter in the fire pit many times. But now, it was the first time in his life that he saw the color of the fire crystal become lighter outside the fire pit. What did Xian do? He could release the energy of the fire crystal. No wonder the shaman had such an attitude towards Xiaofan. Ao suppressed the shock in his heart. After thinking for a while, he stared at the bat leader and stepped back. After taking 2 steps back, he stepped on something. Ao used his toes to push the layer of soft soil above the ground and saw a piece of fire crystal about the same size as the one he had just picked up. The previous one, because of the sudden appearance of the bat leader, had fallen and he did not know where it had fallen. He did not expect to pick up another one now. Ao used his toes to pick up the fire crystal, and the crystal on the ground was lifted up. When he was about to pick up the fire crystal with his hand, Ao suddenly felt a strong evil spirit coming towards him. A black shadow broke through the poisonous miasma and quietly came to him. If it were not for Ao's rich experience and intuition, he would not even know how he died. After the previous fight, Ao did not dare to take it directly. He instantly exerted strength under his feet, and the soft soil was shaken up. Ao used the strength under his feet to dodge the attack, which was like a huge blade. He barely avoided the attack, but before Ao landed on the ground, the sharp wing claws had come from above and almost nailed Ao there in the next moment. Fast. Too fast. Ao's usual spear had been destroyed. At this moment, he could only pull out a stone knife and raise it to block the claw. He knew that this bat leader could easily destroy his long spear and Gui's saber. He might not be able to withstand the next blow, but he had to do it even if he couldn't. Ao also knew that the moment his feet touched the ground, the wing claws would be nailed directly on the knife, even over the stone knife and nailed on him. But there was no way to retreat. When the wing claws were nailed down, an arm was raised and blocked between the wing claws and Ao. The wing claws, which were about to be nailed with a fierce attack, suddenly stopped, as if the pause button had been pressed. Ao's feet landed on the ground, but he did not run away. He still maintained the posture of holding the knife, but looked at Xiaofan in front of him. The bat leader, after pausing for a few seconds, took back its wing claws. As for the piece of fire crystal that Ao had just found, it was swept away by the bat leader's wing before he grabbed it. He did not know where it went. In fact, Xiaofan was not confident that he could stop the bat leader who suddenly went crazy. But he could not watch it go mad at Ao, so he could only try. It was really useful. The bat leader really cared about the fire crystal very much. There were many fire crystals here, but those dug out showed no sign of being absorbed. There was only one reason for this situation: it could not absorb the energy in the fire crystal. It could perceive where the fire crystal was. The sinkhole was also its masterpiece. That was to say, the fire crystals on the ground were probably dug out by the bat leader. It dug out some fire crystals, but it could not get the energy of the fire crystals. Xiaofan speculated that it should swallow the fire crystals like eating prey. However, fire crystals were fire crystals after all. Even such a ferocious beast that was moving towards becoming a king beast could not digest them. It would poop out the same way it ate it. The ground in the sinkhole was covered with a layer of rotten things. Among them, there were many substances that looked like mud, but in fact, they were piled up by the bat leader's feces. The piece of fire crystal under Ao's feet was excreted by the bat leader. The soft mud was actually its feces. Ao, who had just escaped, had not yet calmed down. He heard the movement of the grass vines and saw Ta coming down from above. Ao waved his hand, indicating that they should not come over. If the bat leader went mad again, Xiaofan might not be able to stop it again. Ao had roughly guessed what Xiaofan was doing. But he could not believe it because of the limited knowledge he had. Even so, he did not want more people to know Xiaofan's special secret. The shaman must know that Xiaofan was special, but he had not said it. Naturally, he had his own considerations. 3 hours later, it was getting late. The moonlight outside could not shine to the bottom of the sinkhole. It was almost blocked by the miasma. Crack! A slight sound came from Xiaofan's hand. The fire crystal, which could not be cut by a sharp blade made of high-quality stone, cracked. This also meant that the energy within the fire crystal was almost depleted. Xiaofan turned his wrist and let the fragment in his hand fall to the ground. He told the bat leader in front of him that this one had been absorbed. At the same time, Xiaofan thought in his heart, "Please don't find another one from the feces. Let me continue." The bat leader used its wings to push the fragments of the fire crystal on the ground, which had become inconspicuous. No one knew what it was thinking. After looking at it for a while, it stretched its wings and flew up. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared in front of Xiaofan and others. When the bat leader left, Xiaofan felt that the air here seemed to be fresher. The extremely dangerous sense of oppression from the bat leader was also much less. "It's gone." Ta came over and said. He held a piece of fire crystal in his hand and handed it to Ao. "I just picked it up over there." He wanted to ask for credit from his father, but before Ta finished his words, Ao grabbed the fire crystal from Ta's hand and threw it far away. "Ta, let's not think about the fire crystals here," Ao said. "Why?" Ta was anxious. "Those were pieces of fire crystals. The bat leader knows what's going on. It won't let us take any piece from here. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will hunt us down. If it were just some ferocious beasts, even if they couldn't defeat them, Ao would take the risk to dig out all the fire crystals here. However, this bat was developing in the direction of a king beast. It could be regarded as a half-king beast. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been defeated so easily. If they were hunted down by such a guy, it would be a disaster. Ao didn't dare to take this risk. Many ferocious beasts in the forest were much smarter than people expected. I agree with the chief. Xiaofan moved his sore arms and said, every piece of fire crystal here has the smell of that bat leader. Even if we take them back to the tribe, we will be tracked down. Ta was silent. He understood the reason, but he was unwilling to accept it. Fight? They couldn't beat it. Steal? They couldn't steal. So many fire crystals were almost at their fingertips, but they couldn't take them. Aggrieved. Chapter 220. Whether it was Ta, the team leader of the hunting team, or Ao, the chief of the tribe, they both knew how precious the fire crystals were. That was why they felt so conflicted. Their faces were twisted, and they resisted the temptation of the fire crystals. Ao suppressed all the emotions in his heart and said, let's go up first. Since the chief had spoken, the others had to do it even if they were unwilling. When they came out of the giant pit, the two moons in the night sky cast light on them, so that they could see the surrounding situation. Although the moonlight allowed them to see the objects around them, they were still used to lighting their torches. The chief is out. Team leader Ta is out too. Xian, are you all right? Those who were guarding outside the giant pit swarmed up. Among the 8 people who entered the giant pit, 7 were senior totem warriors, and 1 was a middle-level totem warrior. The first 7 were all injured, but the latter was the only one who was not injured. Some people attributed it to the protection of the 7 senior totem warriors, while others were confused. How could the 7 of them protect others when they were injured like this? Even if they were confused, they did not dare to ask when they saw the chief and team leaders' faces. It seems that things are not going well. Kiki whispered to Tuo. 8 people went down, 7 were injured, and none of them brought out a piece of fire crystal. Everyone knew that things were not going well. There were many people who came this time, and they gathered around the giant pit. Fortunately, there was poisonous miasma everywhere, so other creatures did not dare to come here. Except for the vampire bats, no other creatures would appear. Therefore, from dusk to now, no dangerous ferocious beasts had come. The most dangerous one was not in the pit now. It's already night. Shall we find a cave to rest? But the mountain is full of poisonous miasma. We have to go down the mountain. Ta was talking when he found that Xiaofan suddenly stopped and stood there. No one knew what he was thinking. Xian? Xiaofan raised his head and saw that the people around were looking at him with doubts. He shook his head to show that he was fine, but he just thought of something. What did you think of? Ao asked. Xiaofan looked at the foot of the mountain and then looked at the sinkhole at the top of the mountain. He said, I was thinking, if we can't dig from the sinkhole, can we start digging from the foot of the mountain? What do you mean? Tower was confused at first, but then his eyes lit up. Dig a hole. Just like the wild beasts in the forest who were good at digging holes, they could dig a long way from one place. Even if they couldn't dig at the top of the mountain, they could still dig a hole at the bottom of the mountain. If this was really a fire crystal mine, there must be some fire crystals that had not been dug out by the bat leader. That's right. We can dig holes. The leaders and team leaders, who had not wanted to give up until now, felt that this idea was feasible. Ao led his men down the mountain and found a suitable place. Let's start digging from here. This place was not covered by the poisonous miasma, so it was not within the range that the bat leader would pay attention to. They could dig without worry. Divide into 2 groups. Ta and Gigu, you lead your own team and take turns to dig and rest. Ao assigned the tasks. Yes. With hope, Ta and Gigu calmed down. Now they were full of energy and didn't care about their injuries. They just wanted to dig a hole that extended to the foot of the mountain and the sinkhole as soon as possible. Let Caesar help. He is good at digging holes. Xiaofan said. Caesar's strength and claws were superior. Soon, he dug a vertical pit at the place chosen by Ao. Then, he dug from the pit toward the direction of the sinkhole. While Caesar was digging in that direction, the others were also tamping down the sides of the pit that they had dug in the beginning and building steps. The stone and soil that Caesar dug out also needed to be transported out. Xian, you take a rest first. They are enough here. Ao said to Xiaofan. Although Xiaofan was the only one among the 8 people who didn't seem to have any trauma, Ao felt that Xiaofan might consume more energy than them. It also took a lot of physical strength to draw out the energy in the fire crystal. Looking at the progress of Caesar, Xiaofan didn't refuse. Well, I will take a nap. Call me if you need me. Well, don't worry. Go to sleep. The bat leader should be looking for food. It won't come back for a while. We are not in its territory now, so it should be okay. Ao said. Xiaofan really felt sleepy. He went to the side, leaned against the wall of the pit and closed his eyes. He planned to rest for a while, but when he opened his eyes again, the sky was already bright. He didn't know if it was because he had consumed too much energy yesterday. This night, Xiaofan slept very soundly. All the movements around him seemed to be isolated. This sleep also made all the fatigue and muscle pain disappear. He felt very comfortable all over. Yang Guang's light shone into his pupils through the slits of his eyes. Xiaofan couldn't help but squint. He planned to rest for a while and then open his eyes again. But the next moment, he felt that something was wrong. It was strangely quiet around him. There was no sound of digging, no discussion, no sound of walking. Crackle. The sound of the firewood burning in the bonfire was very clear in the forest this morning. The surrounding area was filled with the smell of burnt meat. But it was not that there was no one here. Everyone was here, including Caesar and Cha-Cha. No one was missing. Xiaofan could feel it. But none of them made a sound. But from their breathing, he could hear that their hearts were not calm. They were even extremely nervous. The frequency of their breathing seemed to be deliberate. It was not casual, and they didn't dare to be casual. It was as if they were facing a great enemy. As if they were facing a great enemy? Xiaofan didn't care whether it was dazzling or not. He opened his eyes. Sensing something, Zhang Xian turned his head around, and the first thing he saw was a bizarrely large nose. Xiaofan, damn you. Xiaofan suddenly woke up. The bat leader was silently hanging upside down on the wall of the pit that had just been dug. It hung there steadily as if it was weightless. The bat's head was right next to Xiaofan. Around them, Cha-Cha, who was standing on the edge of the pit, felt the hair on his neck stand up. Caesar wasn't much better. He bared his teeth and his whole body was tense. He looked like he was going to pounce over in the next moment. The people who were digging the hole, barbecuing the meat, and drinking water all stopped what they were doing. The people who were barbecuing the meat had already thrown away the meat skewers on the wooden sticks. They didn't even care that the meat was burnt. The people who were drinking water had already thrown the kettle aside, letting the clear water flow out of the kettle. Everyone was holding stone picks, knives, axes, and so on in their hands, nervously looking at the creature that had appeared here without any warning. The reason why they hadn't taken any action was that their leader, Ao, had signaled them not to act rashly. Only God knew how Ao's heart had trembled when he found that the bat leader had appeared here. He just drank some water. When he turned his head, he found that the bat leader had appeared there silently. He was so scared that he threw away the kettle. Ta, Gigu, die, Wei. Every one of them who had been beaten by the bat leader didn't react better than AO when they saw this scene. Their hair almost stood up together with the hair on their backs. At this moment, everyone's expression was almost frozen. The slightly twitching muscles on their faces and the sweat coming out from their foreheads and arms, all showed their nervousness. The situation was so tense that it was on the verge of breaking out. Chapter 221. Xiaofan stared at the bat leader hanging upside down next to him. After a few seconds of silence, he stood up. With Xiaofan's movement, the stagnant atmosphere became more tense. The surrounding air seemed to be frozen, making it difficult to breathe. Everyone was worried that the bat leader hanging upside down there would suddenly launch an attack. It was not the ferocious beasts that they had hunted before. On the contrary, in front of it, everyone was prey. After Xiaofan stood up, the bat leader's head also twisted a little with Xiaofan's movement. It seemed that it did not notice the tense atmosphere around and was very calm. Suddenly seeing this guy, Xiaofan was a little surprised. But now thinking about it, he was not too surprised. He was just startled when he just woke up. Anyone who opened their eyes and saw this scene would be frightened. It also wanted the fire crystals. However, the one that Xiaofan always carried with him was gone. Now there was no one in his pocket. If the bat leader went crazy here, Xiaofan could not stop it. Just as he was thinking about it, the bat leader moved. It flapped its wings and flew into the air from the upside-down position. The airflow caused by the flapping of its wings made the fire in the bonfire jump. Everyone's tense nerves were pulled tighter again, as if they would collapse in the next moment. However, the people nervously preparing for the battle, as well as Cha-Cha standing beside the pit and Caesar in an attacking posture, did not make the bat leader do anything. It did not even look at the people around it. With a flap of its wings, a black shadow flashed, like a sudden lightning, flashing and disappearing. At the same time, Xiaofan, who had been standing there, also disappeared. Cha-Cha shouted and chased after it, followed by Caesar. "You wait here. I'll go and have a look." Leaving these words, Leader Ao also went to the giant pit. In yesterday's battle, among the 7 senior totem warriors who fell into the pit, Ao's injury was the lightest. Gigu and Dai's injuries were not good for them to fight again. It was futile to go there, and it would only increase the casualties. After all, they were not at the same level, and the strength gap was too big. When Ao rushed to the giant pit, Xiaofan had been taken to the giant pit again. Although the bat leader had controlled its strength, its 2 hind claws still pierced Xiaofan's animal skin coat. However, because he was wearing the insect skin caught in the ice field near the Eagle Mountain, his shoulder was not scratched, but it was not much better. Even if his bones were not broken and his skin did not bleed, he still felt a burning pain. To him. Flying to the bottom of the pit, the bat's claws loosened, and Xiaofan fell forward due to inertia. If he had not reacted fast enough and stabilized himself, he would have fallen on the ground covered with humus and bat feces. It seemed that the bat leader knew that Xiaofan had no fire crystals, so after it caught Xiaofan, it walked around for a while, and then moved its folded wing claws to dig out a piece of fire crystal from the ground, and threw it to Xiaofan. The fire crystal was thrown like a bullet. Xiaofan did not directly catch it with his hands, but turned sideways to avoid it. If he caught it with his bare hands, not to mention whether his palms would be scratched, his wrist bones would probably be broken. In addition to the fire crystal, there were also clouds of humus and bat feces thrown out by the bat leader's claws. Xiaofan also avoided them. After the fire crystal was shot into the wall of the pit, Xiaofan went to dig it out. The bat leader seemed to be very angry that Xiaofan avoided it. Black poisonous miasma was sprayed out from its nostrils and mouth, and the sound of the air flow was sharper than before. Xiaofan looked at the fire crystal in his hand, which was about the same size as the one he carried with him yesterday. The difference was that this fire crystal had not been consumed at all, while the one he carried with him yesterday had been used a lot, so it could be consumed in half a day. Half a day was definitely not enough for this fire crystal. Even if his efficiency had improved a lot, he could not consume this fire crystal in such a short time. It could not be finished before nightfall. Xiaofan thought. The voices of Cha-Cha and Caesar came from above the giant pit. They had arrived. This bat leader could break Cha-Cha's neck like a chicken, and Caesar was not much better. Before the bat leader took action, Xiaofan bent his fingers and put them in his mouth, blowing a whistle that both Caesar and Cha-Cha knew, indicating that they should not come over and that he was fine. Listening to the movements above, and confirming that Caesar and Cha-Cha had not come down, Xiaofan immediately began to stimulate the power in his body, making the fire crystal burn. In the special vision, Xiaofan could see that on the fire crystal in his hand, there were traces of red lines. Some of the red lines came to him, and the other went to the bat leader. The bat leader, which was originally more than 10 meters away from Xiaofan, felt the traces of energy, and came closer. Standing in front of such a semi-king level beast, Xiaofan felt great pressure. Looking around, at the bottom of the giant pit, there was still some chaos, and all kinds of dirt could be seen everywhere. The only difference was that there was an extra body of a woolly mammoth. This should be the food brought back by the bat leader last night. It was hard to imagine how it transported the mammoth, which was several times larger than itself, here. In his impression, the mammoth's majestic and mighty body was now shriveled. It was casually thrown there, and the protruding bones were very obvious. In comparison, the two large tusks that curved forward in a spiral shape were more attractive. However, the bat leader was not interested in these tusks, bones and so on. All the corpses were just dried up, and the bones and teeth were still there. When Ao arrived at the giant pit, Cha-Cha and Caesar were wandering around the giant pit, and did not go down. He slid to the bottom of the giant pit along the place where he put down the grass vines yesterday, and saw the same situation as yesterday. Knowing that Xiaofan was not hurt, Xian was relieved. He felt a little helpless. After such a scare early in the morning, he still hadn't recovered from the shock. Xiaofan also saw Ao at the bottom of the pit, and made a gesture, indicating that he was fine. Since Xiaofan could perceive Ao's movement, the bat leader could naturally. However, it did not care at all, and did not take Ao seriously. At the moment it was just concentrating on absorbing the energy from the fire crystal. But if Ao took away a piece of fire crystal here, it would not be so calm, and would kill directly. Ao would not take the fire crystal. After making sure that Xiaofan was okay, he stayed aside and watched, in case of any accident. After a while, Ta also came down, because he saw that Caesar, Cha-Cha and Ao did not go back, so he came to inquire. "You go back first, let the others continue, and I will keep an eye here." Ao lowered his voice and said to Ta. He looked at Xiaofan, then at his own father. Ta nodded and passed Ao a spear. "You be careful too." As Xiaofan expected, from morning until night, the fire crystal in his hand cracked with a ka sound. Seeing the cracked fire crystal, the bat leader did not stay here any longer. It flapped its wings and flew out of the giant pit to look for food. Xiaofan breathed a long sigh of relief, and quickly left the giant pit with Ao, who was guarding beside him. Xiaofan was fine, because he had the fire crystal to replenish his physical strength, but Ao could not. Even if he brought the herbs, he was a little dispirited because of the poisonous miasma in the giant pit. He felt better after leaving the giant pit. Xiaofan did not eat anything since morning, so he was mentally tired and his stomach was empty, which made Xiaofan look no better than Ao. Back to the place where the hole was dug, Xiaofan ate several pieces of meat, and then fell asleep tiredly. The next day, as usual. But this time, before Xiaofan woke up, the bat leader directly grabbed Xiaofan and took him away. Just like the day before, Ao went over to guard. On the other side, Ta and Gigu led people to hurry up with the work. They thought that they should dig the hole as soon as possible and leave after digging out the fire crystals. On the third day, before the bat leader took Xiaofan away, someone was too nervous and triggered the traps set around the hole. The traps were originally set to guard against the ferocious beasts that came out to look for food at night, but now, it became a thunder drum that shocked everyone. The stone arrowhead was shot in the direction of the bat leader. With a clang, it hit the bat leader's wings, as if it hit hard metal. The stone arrowhead fell to the ground, but the bat's wings were not hurt at all. However, the situation was getting more and more tense. Being stabbed like this was not a big deal for the bat leader, but it could be regarded as a provocation. It was a little angry, but it did not directly attack the people around it. Instead, it screamed towards the hole dug by the people, and the result of 2 days' work collapsed. Ao and the two team leaders saw the collapsed hole, and their faces turned green. Ao also went over to look around the collapsed hole. It was not convenient to continue digging here, and they had to find another place. How annoying. However, even if they were so angry that they had internal bleeding, they could do nothing about it. They could not beat it, could not scold it, and could not provoke it. They had to endure whatever they did. After all, the bat leader was strong. Fortunately, the bat leader did not intend to attack them directly. If such a ferocious beast at the half-king level went to the tribe, they would not be able to cry even if they wanted to. Fortunately, there were fire seeds in the tribe. Where there were fire seeds, these ferocious beasts would always be afraid of them. However, after this incident, how could they really get rid of the half-king level bat leader? This was Ao's worry. Let's do this first. Let's get the fire crystals first. I think that although the bat leader needs the fire crystals, it has a limit like the totem warriors. It will not absorb the fire crystals endlessly, but it has not reached that limit yet. Xiaofan said. That's the only way. Xian, thank you for your hard work. Ao said with guilt. Before he came, he told the shaman that he would protect Xiaofan, but now? It's okay. Anyway, it didn't hurt me. It just wanted to absorb the fire crystals. Moreover, I think that if we take good care of it, it may be good for us in the future. Xiaofan said. Ao knew that Xiaofan was comforting him. He pulled up the corners of his mouth, but he still could not smile. King-level beasts were not like other ferocious beasts. They were arrogant and difficult to get along with. It was impossible for them to be as obedient as the beasts and ferocious beasts raised by the tribe. If they were careless and angered it, the consequences would be unimaginable. For the fire crystals, they had to endure it. Chapter 222. Because of the bat leader's attack, the hole they had dug was ruined and they had to start from scratch. While they were digging the hole again, Ao sent someone back to the tribe and told the shaman about what had happened here. Ao did not let anyone pass on the details of Xiaofan, the fire crystal and the half-king level bat leader. Instead, he peeled off a piece of animal skin and wrote on it. He wrote down what had happened here in detail, tied it with a straw rope, and asked the people of the Hui tribe to bring it to the shaman. He needed to ask the shaman about some things before he could make a decision. Ao was not worried that the people of the Hui tribe would secretly open the animal skin roll and read what was written inside. Without permission, the people of the Hui tribe would not read it at will. Ao still had this confidence and also trusted the people of the Hui tribe. When the warriors of the Hui tribe came back, they also brought the shaman's reply. Ao went to a place where no one was around, opened the animal skin roll and read the content written by the shaman. He thought that the shaman would write a lot of things, telling them how to deal with the half-king level bat leader. Unexpectedly, after opening the animal skin roll, Ao only saw one sentence, "Ask Xian." If he did not know that the shaman had chosen Gui Zhe to take over, Ao would have thought that the successor chosen by the shaman was Xiao Xian. Could it be that the shaman wanted Xian to be the next chief? Ao could not help thinking. No, it should not be. With Ao's understanding of the shaman, he knew that if the shaman wanted to cultivate Xiao Xian to be the chief, it would not be like this. Ao shook his head. Since he could not guess the purpose of the shaman, Ao did not think more. At this time, it was better to focus on the things at hand. Days passed, and the hole they dug again had reached the foot of the mountain. It would take them 2 or 3 more days to reach the bottom of the giant pit. At that time, they would know whether there were fire crystals under the giant pit as Xiao Xian said. During this time, everyone was less afraid of the bat leader because it had not appeared here for several days. Xiao Xian would take the initiative to go to the sinkhole early in the morning and did not need it to come again. 10 days later, Xiao Xian consumed the fire crystals faster and faster. Using his special vision, he could see that the red energy lines coming out of the fire crystals were much denser than before. This also meant that the energy of the fire crystals was coming out faster. Sometimes, Xiao Xian was able to return to the foot of the mountain before sunset and meet up with the others. Caesar was also called over by Xiao Xian to help the others dig the hole. During this time in the sinkhole, Xiao Xian slowly figured out the bottom line of this bat leader. As long as he didn't take away the fire crystals from the crater, it wouldn't get angry. During the time when Xiao Xian was consuming the fire crystals, he also cut off the 2 big tusks of the woolly mammoth and the giant horns of several giant deer, but it ignored him. This day, when the fire crystals were consumed, the bat leader didn't fly away to look for food. Before Xiao Xian left, it flapped its wings and drove Xiao Xian out of the giant pit. Before leaving the giant pit, Xiao Xian saw that more dense black fog was coming out of its mouth and nostrils. In the giant pit, from the bottom, because of the deeper black fog, it gradually became as black as ink. At this time, even if Ao went in with the herbs, he couldn't bear it. The black fog came out from the top of the giant pit and spread from the top of the mountain to the foot of the mountain. Even some of the poisonous grasses and herbs with high poison resistance living on the mountain died. This mountain is completely impossible to enter. Ao looked at the black spreading mountain and said, "Fortunately, we dug a hole from here." Ta was very emotional. The place where they dug the hole was not surrounded by the black fog. After digging the hole, they didn't need to touch the black fog and poisonous miasma on the surface of the mountain. Even if the poisonous miasma had penetrated into the soil and mountain stones, not much of it reached the hole, so everyone could bear it. "Is it going to transform again?" Gigu asked. "Very likely," Ao said. King Beast, the bat leader, was one step closer to becoming a king beast. "Why don't we take this opportunity to?" Ta held the knife in his hand and made a chopping gesture. Ao, Gigu, and Dai raised their heads and looked at Ta as if he was an idiot. The expression on Ta's face froze, and he probably realized how stupid he had just said. Not to mention whether they could bear the black fog and go in. When the leaders of the 5 hunting groups met the bat leader in the bat cave, it hadn't transformed yet, but it could move freely with its shell. Mai and the others couldn't find its trace at all, which showed the gap in strength. Now, the bat leader had been promoted to a higher level, not to mention it. Even if it was not a king beast, it had taken a big step toward becoming one. Slaughter? How difficult it was. If they were not careful, they would be slaughtered. Thinking about it made their necks cold. They were about to return to the old land. Ao didn't want to take this risk, and he didn't dare to take it. The shaman said that they would face more people and more powerful warriors in the future, not ferocious beasts, let alone king beasts. But if we can't kill it, when it wakes up, it will be more powerful. Will it chase us to the tribe? Dai was worried. With the fire seed, it should not. Ao said. Their trust in the fire seed was stronger than anything else. If there were ferocious beasts attacking them, and the people in the tribe couldn't resist, the shaman could drive them away with the help of the fire seed. Dai was still worried. If we go back to the old land, it will be better. But if we don't go back, it will come out to hunt. Won't it pose a threat to the hunting group and slaughter the warriors? No. Xiaofan said, as long as we don't provoke it, it won't slaughter the hunting warriors. Why? Gigu was a little confused about Xiaofan's answer. Why was Xiaofan so sure? Intuition. Xiaofan said. Xiaofan had a secret. Gigu and Ta all knew it, and Ao also knew it, but he didn't want to tell them. So, the question ended here. Didn't you see the chief's warning eyes? When they were talking here, there came a voice of ecstasy from the cave. It was Kik's loud voice. Boss! Chief! Kiki rushed out of the cave, and the smile on his face squeezed his eyes. Out! Dug it out! Fire crystal, there is a fire crystal. Really? Let me see. Ao couldn't sit still and bounced up from the ground like a spring. Kiki held a small piece of fire crystal in his hand. It was only the size of the fingernail of the little finger, but it was undoubtedly a fire crystal. There were some mud and stone chips on the fire crystal, which meant it had just been dug out. Ao carefully took the small piece of fire crystal, put it in the palm of his hand, and wiped off the dust on the surface. Under Yang Guang's hand, the fiery red color seemed to burn everything it touched. It wasn't like the humus and bat feces in the giant pit. This one didn't have the smell of bats, so it was regarded as an ownerless object. Whoever dug it out could have it. Good. 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 Ao said good 3 times in a row, and laughed out loud. Without the interference of the bat leader, and with the fire crystal dug out, the depression during this time was completely gone. Ao laughed so hard that his chest shook. Excited. Excited. Carefree. Dad, let me see, let me see. It was rare for Ta to call Ao in this way in front of others. Usually, when there were others, he called Ao chief. Ao wanted to show the fairness of a chief. He couldn't get more advantages just because Ta was his son. But now Ta didn't care. He called Ao out because he wanted to let Ao know that his son was still waiting. Let Ao see it first. However, Ao didn't understand his son's mood. He closed his 5 fingers and held the fire crystal. Is there any more? Ao asked Kiki. There should be more. Kiki scratched his head. He wasn't sure. He just came to report the good news after digging out the fire crystal. Let's go inside and have a look. Ao couldn't wait to walk into the cave with others. Xiaofan was the last. Before entering the cave, he looked up at the mountain covered with black fog and the ink-like top of the mountain. Xian, come here. Kiki urged in the cave. Coming. Looking back from the mountain, Xiaofan walked into the cave. Chapter 223. Under the giant pit, there was indeed a place similar to the fire crystal mine. After Kiki, someone dug out another fire crystal. The morale, which had been low for more than 10 days, was suddenly lifted. What was the purpose of coming here? Wasn't it just to dig out more fire crystals? Since they couldn't dig out the fire crystals in the giant pit, they could dig out the fire crystals here. Besides, the bat leader was in closed-door training, so they didn't have to worry about anything. They dug hard, thinking that they could dig out as much as they could while the bat leader was away. Another 6 days passed. The fire crystals, big and small, had filled a bag, and this was only a part of them. Xiaofan estimated that there was still about half of them. These fire crystals were enough for all the warriors in the tribe. Seeing Ao open a roll of animal skin, Ta wiped the sweat on his face and asked, "What did the shaman say?" After finding the fire crystals, Ao wrote another roll of animal skin for the shaman and asked someone to take it to the shaman. The joy of finding the fire crystals faded a little from Ao's face, and he looked a little serious. No one is allowed to disclose the fire crystals. During the break, Ao called everyone over and ordered them not to tell others the location of the fire crystals, the process of finding them and how much they dug out. The last time the 5 hunting groups came here, they found the fire crystals in the giant pit. But this time, they dug an underground tunnel under the giant pit to the foot of the mountain, which needed to be kept secret. If they didn't go back to the old place, it didn't matter, because it was theirs anyway. But then they would definitely go back to the old place. Once someone told people in other tribes about this, it would bring a lot of trouble, and even a war. The fewer people knew, the better. Fortunately, this time they brought people from the advance group. They knew and understood these people well, so they trusted them. It was time to go hunting, and they needed to go back to the tribe. Ao didn't take all of them back, but left some people here to keep digging. He took the other people and the fire crystals to meet with the hunting group, and then went back to the tribe. Xiaofan wanted to stay, in case the bat leader suddenly came out, but Ao refused. The shaman asked you to go back. Xiaofan didn't insist. If the shaman wanted him to go back, he must have something to tell him. When the hunting team returned to the tribe, all the people in the tribe knew that the chief had brought people to look for the fire crystals. It was impossible to keep it a secret, as long as they did not tell them the specific location. Fortunately, many people in the tribe were obedient. If the chief and the shaman didn't say anything, they wouldn't ask. For them, it was a great fortune to have the fire crystals. They didn't need to care about other things. The entire tribe was overflowing with joy. Recently, there had been a lot of good news. They had returned to their old haunt, and now they had the fire crystals. Everything made them happy for a long time. At the top of the mountain, inside the shaman's stone house, the chief, the 2 team leaders, and several elders who had more authority in the tribe all gathered here. Xiaofan was also there. In the past, Xiaofan was not qualified to attend such meetings. But now, no one had any objection. Sometimes, when making some decisions, they would ask for Xiaofan's opinion. After all, Xiaofan was the only one who went to the old haunt and came back. He knew much more than those who stayed here all the time. The tribe will let everyone absorb the fire crystals during the sacrifice ceremony next year. The shaman said, but before the sacrifice ceremony, we can't relax. They couldn't put down other things just because of the fire crystals. Moreover, how much they could absorb depended on their state and ability. Those who had many hidden injuries, those who had not recovered from serious diseases, and those who were malnourished, it was better to adjust their body to the best state before the sacrifice ceremony. This time, it was not a matter of one person or a few people. It was related to the whole tribe. Everyone, from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain, had to pay attention to it. Ao nodded, looked at Tan Gigu, and said, I will take people to the Greenland and try to bring back as many herbs as possible. Many injuries of totem warriors couldn't be healed by themselves, so they had to rely on herbs. Ordinary herbs were not very effective, so they had to use the ones in the Greenland. Leave the fire crystals with me first. The shaman asked Xiaofan, who had been sitting on the side and had been silent, Xian, what do you want to say? When I was there, I found that many people had their own ways to find the fire crystals. If we take a lot of fire crystals there, we will be like living targets. Probably before we reach the old haunt, we will be consumed by waves of people, especially those from the central tribes. They are not weaker than us. Hearing this, everyone, including the chief, was shocked. They looked at Xiaofan, waiting for him to continue. I know that some people use jade boxes to store the fire crystals, which can block all kinds of detection. But, Xiaofan pointed to the big bag of fire crystals on the stone table in the middle, and said, "We don't have enough jade boxes to store the fire crystals. Besides, jade is also very precious there." No one had found a jade mine around, and no one had ever seen jade. It was the ones brought back by Xiaofan that made people have a preliminary understanding. The shaman smiled, "Don't worry about this." Saying this, the shaman took out a wooden box, which also contained fire crystals. However, before opening the box, Xiaofan did not perceive the existence of the fire crystals. "What is this?" Xiaofan's eyes lit up. "This is a box made of hollow wood. I believe that the blocking effect is not weaker than that of jade. Hollow wood can be found in the green land. After cutting it and drying it, we can also bring it back to make boxes." The shaman said. "That's good." Gigu patted his thigh, "I'll take people there to cut more and bring them back. We can make more hollow wood boxes and bring all the fire crystals back to the old land." "No, I don't plan to take all the fire crystals." The shaman's words stunned the excited people. "Why?" They were puzzled. The shaman smiled faintly, "If one day we go back to the old land and encounter a bigger accident, we will come back here. This is our escape route. Leaving some fire crystals is also a safeguard." Inheritance and continuity were things that every tribe could not ignore. As the shaman, he naturally had to consider things in the long term. The fire crystals dug out are enough for all the totem warriors in the next sacrificial ceremony. As for the rest, take some of them with you and keep them for future use. As for the rest, you have to put them back into the tunnel you dug, and then close the tunnel and cover it. As long as those who followed kept the secret of the tunnel, it would be fine. Xiaofan had said that the fire crystals were very tempting. The shaman believed that when outsiders got the news from other people in the tribe, they would definitely look for the giant pit. What was in the giant pit? The half-king level bat leader. If someone really looks for it, then let them die. The shaman's usually calm gaze became sharp, causing everyone present to feel a chill run down their spines. They couldn't help but tremble. King beasts were not common. Xiaofan only knew that there was a king stoneworm in the mountain where Mai's hunting group's second stronghold was, and he had felt that kind of pressure from a very dangerous distance. King beasts were not easy to deal with. Xiaofan was just an exception. He believed that the king beasts could deal with the outsiders in the future. Even if the half-king level bat leader was not really at the king level, it was enough to deal with them. The shaman's words made the people present silent for a long time, and then they sighed deeply. "We do need to think more about it. I have no objection to this. Let's do as you say. Don't let others know about this." The shaman didn't let them leave until they finished discussing the fire crystals in the stone house. "Xian, you stay," the shaman said. When the others left, the shaman said to Xiaofan, "Remember to prepare for the sacrificial dance at the beginning of next year." Xiaofan's face twitched, and he said, "Yes." Although the dance was a little weird, he would get used to it. For this dance, he had to hunt some good prey and make new clothes. At that time, it would be inappropriate to wear the old clothes at the sacrificial ceremony. He would be laughed at, and his strength would be regarded as stagnant. The shaman asked Xiaofan to be one of the members of the sacrificial dance, not only because of Xiaofan's contribution to the tribe. In the year when Xiaofan was away, fewer people awakened their totem power at the sacrificial ceremony. In addition, the shaman tried to engrave 2 beasts, but they both failed. The warriors who raised the beasts thought it was their own problem. They didn't raise the beasts well, so the engraving failed. But the shaman knew that he was the main reason. When he engraved the beasts, he wasn't as good as when he engraved the first batch of beasts. Halfway through the engraving, he felt powerless. One of the beasts didn't even have a totem. The shaman thought that Xiaoxian was also the reason. When Xiaoxian was there, the situation would be much better. Of course, the shaman wouldn't tell Xiaoxian about this. But every time he thought about it, the shaman wished he could go to the fire pit and kowtow to his ancestors, to vent his depression. How could such a talent not be a shaman? Xiaoxian didn't know about the shaman's depression at all. He went to find Ao, and decided to go to the Green Land with him. Before returning to the old haunt, he wanted to find more herbs. One reason was to prepare for the future. When he returned to the old haunt, there would be many places to use herbs. But when he arrived at the old haunt, he wouldn't be able to adapt completely in a short time. He didn't know the geography of the old haunt, so it would be difficult to find good herbs. And the other reason was because of Old Ku. Old Ku was old. Before the sacrificial ceremony, he wanted to give him more nourishment. The better he was during the sacrificial ceremony, the more fire crystals he could absorb. It would be good for Old Ku in the future. In other tribes, disabled people like Old Ku didn't live well. Xiaoxian only hoped that he could improve as much as possible. Before the winter came, the entrance to the fire crystal cave was blocked, and the surroundings were covered. No one could see that there was a tunnel there. After 2 or 3 years, it would be even more difficult to see. Before the winter, Xiaoxian prepared a lot of food for the children in the cave. In the past 2 years, the kids who came out of the mountain cave would bring something to the kids in the mountain cave before winter every year. Now, the kids in the mountain cave had caught fish and meat sent by others, so they were much stronger than before. If they were well nourished, their chances of awakening would be higher. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.